Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2011 Stu Clark Investment Competition. My name is Rob Warren, and I'm the I. Jasper Executive Director for Entrepreneurship. And this is the championship round. For those competitors in the room, if you have a team that's competing in this afternoon's finals, you're allowed to stay for the presentation, but you have to leave for the question and answer session. And Angud's in charge of that, so he'll be watching carefully. He knows who you are. We're going to see 5 teams this afternoon. Each team gets 15 minutes to present, followed by 20 minutes of questions and answers. And first off, I want to introduce the judges. I'm going to start from my left. We have Mr. Richard Wigington, Battle Brown, Tom Cormilo, Lisa McDonald, Stu Clark, M.K. Marsden, and Guy Bieber. The other announcement I want to make is David Weaver was scheduled to be one of the judges today. He is what we call a healthy scratch. And the reason we've removed him is he's actually the CEO of one of the competing teams today. So that's why he's here, but not judging. So first up, from the other U of M, the much less well-known U of M, from the University of Michigan, it's OWN Technologies. Gentlemen, take it away.
All right. Hi, my name is Verdi Ergin, and I'm the president of OWN. And I'd like to talk to you after building our technology for 2 years. We're announcing it to the world, and I'd like to talk to you about investing in our company. 2006, I started a burrito restaurant, and I called it the Burrito Joint. And it was a terrible experience for me because I'd be working there wrestling with my technology. I'd work a 10-hour day. I'd be tired, exhausted. I'd go home. I'd want to know my sales since I left. And I'd call my manager, Debbie, and I'd ask her. And she'd say, Verdi, I'm helping a customer right now. I can't talk to you. So I'd drive back to the store, and I'd run up to the front counter. There'd be a customer there, and I couldn't access the terminal because it was servicing a customer, so I couldn't see my sales data. So this whole experience was rough for me. If I wanted to edit my menus or prices, I had to call the company to do so. And I really felt like even though I was the owner, there was no ownership there. This was the basic tools that I had to run my business. I had a cash register that cost me $400. I had supplies, paper, and ink that cost me $50 a month. I had a credit card terminal that cost me $700. And next to my burrito ingredients, these were the most important tools that I had to run my business. My only source of real business intelligence was my accountant and my $8 per hour clerk at the front counter. If I was running a business online, I would have a Google Analytics system that gave me data about my business. But in my brick and mortar store, I had nothing. And when you're in the restaurant business, you get to know a lot of other restaurant owners. And they felt the same way that I did. They complained about their cash register systems, and they wanted data about their business too. And we all collectively had these questions about our business that we wanted to have answered, like what's selling and what's not selling. Did I sell more on weekends or on weekdays? Did Twitter or Facebook do anything to bring people into the store? Absolutely no idea. Am I selling more drinks with food, or am I selling more drinks independently? I wanted to know all this information, all these answers. Big companies, they spend millions of dollars to get this information. They have expensive systems that cost custom integration process costing $100,000 or more. But I had the same questions that I wanted answered that they had. It just wasn't fair. So we started building OWN around 2 key insights that have never before been true. The first is that the web is a classic David versus Goliath story. You have the classic blogger who's taking on the tabloids online. You have the photographer that's exposing the government. But this hasn't really been true in retail. They're still using the same cash register systems. And the reason for that is our second key insight. Our second key insight is that the tablet will revolutionize retail. The reason why this has been true so far is because the point-of-sale systems have been custom integration projects costing exorbitant amounts of money that small businesses can't afford. But now with the web connectedness, mobility, and low cost of a tablet, every business can have one. And that's really what OWN is built on, the premise that everyone should have a cash register that gives them the real data about their business that they can afford at a price that's right for them. And what we do at OWN is we marry the power of the tablet with the web accessibility of an online point-of-sale system. We're there for you at your store, where you can actually take orders at your store, and these orders are beamed real-time to the cloud. We're also there for you at home, when you're spending time with your family, and your kids are there, you can see your sales data. Or when you're on the go on a plane to Sacramento, you can see your sales data. So we're there for you wherever you go. I'd like to now turn over to Cheng Chen, our product integrator, who can go more into our tablet solution. Cheng?
So very, this is the first generation tablet. This is our current generation tablet. It's a third generation prototype that we've made, and Welcome to the OWN tablet is really the culmination of all the engineering that we've done with the research from our predecessors. This tablet was built upon 3 key philosophical insights about our technology. First of all, we really wanted to run this on open source technology, yet backed by powerful APIs, such as Ruby on Rails and the various Java frameworks that exist. Second of all, we really wanted to produce at a price that is cheap enough, or I would say low enough, so that we can have powerful pricing controls. And third of all, OWN does not cut anything. Everything about this tablet, from the technology to the operating system to even the typography here, is custom made so that it produces something that owners will actually really love. Imagine being able to take this tablet to your store in the morning, going to your inventory in the back, typing in anything that you need for what the inventory is. All that information is immediately beamed to the cloud. And then when you're ready to start in the middle of the day, give this to your barista, place it down on the counter, on the OWN counter, so that you can use this as a point of sale. As she's making drinks and typing in the information, all the sales is beamed real-time, sale by sale, into the cloud. And at the end of the day, when you're ready to come back, you can actually interact with your customer. Pick up the tablet. It's now mobile. Walk up to your customer. Can I get you another cup of coffee? Can I refill that tea for you? Everything can be done face-to-face with your customers. OWN will be able to save stores 10 to 15% just on sales alone, because now your baristas and your cashiers can spend more time with the actual customer interacting and upselling without rather running back and forth between this. We even have social media, because it is running on the internet. When you notice your sales dropping down in the middle of the day, you can now immediately tweet within our system for like a 20-kilometer radius with 30% discounts. Immediately, people will flush to your area, and now you've just linked real-time sales, real-time media with real-time advertising, something that has not been powerful without cloud-based technologies. And really, we were only able to achieve this after researching what our previous predecessors were able to do. Companies like NCR or Micros were able to access 83% of the market share on technologies that still run on zip drives. Now, I thought, if they can do that on technologies that run on Windows 95 and zip drives, why can't we do that with something that runs on Ruby on Rails or Java application or any of the existing cloud infrastructure? It is the 21st century. And a lot of our competitors have already done similar things. They ran this device on the iPad. I love the iPad. I want one of the iPad 2s. We thought about running this, but when we talked to our customers, we realized that it was too much and not enough at the same time. The iPad was just, the screen size was not comfortable. They were used to 15-inch screens. At the same time, it allowed customers and allowed both their employees to play stuff such as Twitter, Facebook, or Angry Birds. They really wanted an industry solution, so we went back to our drawing boards and created something like this, something that is completely optimized from the hardware to the operating system to the software to the technology to the design. Everything is vertically integrated. And now I would like to hand this back to Verdi to talk a bit more about our sales strategy and our market
Thanks,
approach.
Chang. So point of sale is a $6 billion industry, but the quick service market is $1.5 billion. And we're looking at about 500,000 retail stores right now today that are still using cash registers. We're focused this year on the coffee market because they have homogeneous menus. They're already web connected. There's a lot of them. There's about 20,000 different coffee shops. Next year, we'll be going to other verticals. I'd like to talk a little bit about our sales strategy. Right now, the sales strategy is extremely expensive in point of sale. You have direct sales representatives that go direct to the clients, and big companies like NCR and IBM charge the end customers these expensive sales models. They pay for the salespeople. But the web enables a whole new sales platform. And because we're online, we can take advantage of it. Customers go to our website, they create their menu online, they order a tablet, it's shipped through standard infrastructure such as USPS, and when it arrives at their door, they can then link it to the menu that they create online, which allows us to pass on the savings that we don't have to pay for a sales force directly to our customers. Which allows me to get to my pricing structure. If you take a look at a cash register, you're spending about $400. You can go all the way down to a big Starbucks IBM system that could cost you $12,000 and a big, huge maintenance contract. But we've really focused on that big chunk in the middle, a platform that everybody can afford at $600 for the device and $150 a month. On our sales plan, I'd like to focus on 3 key points. The first is that we have a recurring revenue model where as we accrue more stores, our digital transaction revenue increases. 50% this year, 63% next year, and then 80% year 3. Secondly, I'd like to focus on that in 2012 we go break even, and I'd also like to focus on that we have a very viral and aggressive growth plan. Now it's time to play. Let's go into a demo. Shang, could you please pull up our software? So this is your own store, and we're going to ring in a latte. I'd be more than happy to ring in the latte. I'd like a syrup. Can you give me caramel syrup? Thank you so much. Can you also give me a shot of espresso to go with my latte? Thanks. And can you check me out, please? This is all being run real time on our cloud software. As we check out, we built an intelligent algorithm system that scans the order and makes recommendations based on what your store carries. We think a coffee cake would go great with your order. The store already carries this. We're trying a new scone. We can accept payment, cash, credit, gift card. It's all there. Now we can go to our real-time management backend. In our backend, we can see our sales data. Now we know that we just rang in an order. We can go and we can look at previous history, such as the past 30 days. We get real-time graphs about what's selling, what's not. We can drill into our data. We can know that we have categories that are selling items. It's all there for you at your fingertips. Editing your menus is the easiest way that we could think of. It's a snap. You just go to your menus area. You say, I want to create a new item. Let's call it the Winnipeg. And we'll just put it right there. We'll click the icon so that we can add it to the menu. And it will show up. We can add pricing, set it in categories. Let's make it $4. We can do item description. So we'll say, this is right here at home. Maybe we'll mark it as vegan so that the employees can start to get information that you want to communicate about your store. Then we can even go and we can add customizations. We can say, let's add strawberry syrup. Let's add whipped cream. It's easy. It's all being real time to the cloud. All this information then is communicated to all your terminals. So now that we added this item, we'll close out and we'll go to our management. We'll go to our terminal backend. It's being real time. You're at the store. You're taking customers are walking in, and you say, OK, now we have the new drink. It's called the Winnipeg. And you're taking the customer order, and you can just click it. You no longer have to go to your stores physically anymore. You can manage change just as easily, and it's there. If we go back to our management backend, it's $4. We have all our pricing. We have multi-location support. So chains can manage their business just as easily as single stores. They can add locations. They can edit their locations, look at different sales for different locations. If we were talking earlier about how difficult it was to manage social media, now it's a snap. I go to my connections tab. I can manage my Twitter, my Facebook. I can tweet specials and coupons about my business right while I'm looking at my sales data. Here we go. All right, and this is pretty much the software solution. Now I'd like to go back to the presentation. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about our business. So in terms of traction, we've had some great success. We entered the market in March. We're already installed in 6 stores. We have 7 more lined up for April, and they have some great things to say. We also have some beta test applications from some well-known coffee chains. If you take a look at our first customer, this is Mike Castor in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He says, it's been a great experience for me. I'm now able to predict what I need to sell, what sandwiches and paninis I need to sell about my business. I can prep them the night before so I can give people a faster speed of service. This is Andy Weeb right here in Manitoba says it's everything that I could have dreamed of. If we go to the next slide, our intention is to install into 100 stores this year. In order to do that, we're looking for partners. We're looking for partners that can help grow with us and grow this company together. We're raising $500,000 on a $3 million pre-money valuation. We're giving up 14.2% of the company in our pre-money valuation. We're giving up in units of $50,000, 1.4% per unit. This money, this $500,000, will allow us to get to 500 stores. Allow us to get to 100 stores. It'll allow us to build in our self-service sales model where customers can go online and order the tablet and have it shipped to them. It can also allow us to build in integrated payments into the device itself so that customers can actually ring in credit cards on the device at the customer station. We'll be looking for a potential A-series round in about a year. This will give us 12 months of operating capital. And then in terms of returns, we're looking at a 20x cash-on-cash return priced at 2 times earnings revenue because we're a hardware software company. If you look at just a web company, it's 5x. We're a hardware software company, so we're looking at 2x. There's some B-series potential. And on the low end, we're looking at an IRR of about 76%. And on the high end, we're looking at an IRR of about 96%. Potential exit as well, and I'd be more than happy to get to that in the Q&A period. Our team is absolutely astounding, and our team fulfills very specific roles. For example, I'm the president. I started the Burrito Joint, so I have an operator's perspective, and I understand the pains in this business. We have an outstanding software development team. Deepika Mishra was a chief developer in optimizations at Tata. Karim Virani was a chief developer at Span6 Software. We've been able to recruit top talent who believe in this vision. Our hardware analyst has extensive background in hardware. Our product integrator, Cheng Chen, is a Linux and Ubuntu specialist. We also have sales support. So we have a team that fulfills very strict and stringent roles and that has competencies in every specific area. And we actually finished a little early, so we'll have more time for Q&A. Thanks.
Yeah.
Is that the device, the only device that you use right now? one that you have in your hand?
Oh, this device right here. This device is not the only device that's currently being used.
Do you have your mic on?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
I can
Yeah.
hear you. Are you a device company too? Is there a markup on the physical products that you're selling there as well?
We're a software and a design company. And we do virtually a pass-through on the devices. We're a small business services company. So where we really make our money is in the monthly subscription revenues.
Who pays for the device?
Our customers pay for the device.
These devices currently, this one right here, costed us $350 to prototype. At mass market, that means above 200, immediate MOQ sales, it's less than $200 per unit. That's why we're planning on giving this away at only $600. It's just to cover the costs.
It's cover the cost of the device, the shipping, getting it set up with the customers, everything like that.
So I got a question on the device, and
Sure.
you're up there, you're kind of handling it gingerly. If this is a burrito shop or a coffee shop, stuff's going to get poured on it, drinks, it's going to get dropped probably a couple times a day. Like are these like U.S. Army
Solid, yeah.
or
This first generation is really solid. It is really, really solid. But this is a next generation prototype. So this is not solid. But during our actual next age revenue of production, our next step in producing this will definitely become solid. But I can show you this right now, and you can see how solid this is. But
Yeah,
we
you can
realize
pass
we
it.
want to do the
like I
colors.
dropped my iPhone and I have for a couple of times on the garage floor. It doesn't
Sure.
work anymore, so I'm sure this is going to get more.
It's not made out of aluminum, so it's not going to dent when you drop it.
Sure.
So where does the money go and where's the credit card scanner on my
I can
mobile
answer
POS?
that question. Yeah, so our current customers are using a separate Verifone terminal. As part of the raise is we actually want to integrate the payment system into the device experience. This will allow us to give people a truly mobile experience where they can take orders at the customer counters. They can take payment at the customer counters. As far as cash transactions go, right now a USB drive, a USB cash drawer plugs into the device, and then on the operating system it can access the cash drawer and open it up. All that stuff is taken care of right now.
Yeah, I'll go into the technicals of the payments. We're actually currently becoming payment processors ourselves. We're becoming an independent sales organization. So that on top of the 7% transactions that you get from each payment, we're getting 95% of that cut. That's to back up the revenue model that we have. Now, it's using an
Wait,
engine.
so you're a hardware company, a software company, a design
Payments
company, and a transaction company?
We're not a software. We're not a hardware company. I'm sorry. We're a design company, a software company, and we're a payment company. All together, vertically.
We're
integrated.
vertically integrated.
Now,
yeah.
PCI compliance is difficult. We don't have to worry about that because we're using the latest end-to-end encryption, something that the current industry players aren't using. They're currently becoming PCI compliant. We don't have to.
Yeah.
Does your device give the user the ability to track each server's performance?
Yes. So they can actually go drill down. They can drill down into the location level. So currently they can drill down to the location level. We haven't had any requests yet from our customers that say we want to know exactly what this register is doing in the cloud. They have reports that they run into storage so they can keep track of separate registers. But if they asked us that, we could definitely build that in because we can separately
It's already
identify
built
every terminal.
So they could analyze each of their
It's already built in.
waitresses and who's
Yeah.
Yeah.
their performance?
Exactly.
It's
right.
already in our
Yeah.
database. We just haven't enabled it.
Yeah, and what's really nice about the setup is that because it's all web-based, systems today are really stagnant. They don't get better over time. But what we can do is we can update all the systems remotely. So all our customers are on the most recent version of the system. So as we get customer requests in, we roll out updates, and then all the customers are updated, and it's just a really nice kind of community.
Experience.
Now, a coffee shop typically has a cash register. All the activity takes place ordering everything at the cash register. But you're talking about tracking servers and waitresses and people. Does every waitress need one of those?
So our initial gut feeling is that this is actually a little bit too big for a waiter or waitress. We think that this is perfect for taking inventory in the morning and then doing your sales at the front counter, and then possibly, if you feel a little ambitious, going out to the customers in the afternoon. But we don't think that this is really going to replace server pen and paper at Applebee's. I think we would need a smaller device for that. But I think that really where this is perfect is replacing the existing cash register and giving these store owners real data about their business that they didn't have access to before.
In real time.
What's the switching cost to switch out of a point-of-sale system to another one?
Yeah, so if you're using a cash register, there's a training time. What we found, though, is that our initial baristas are getting trained up on our system in 5 to 10 minutes. As you saw on our demonstration, it's fairly easy to use. If you have an existing cash register, you're throwing that out, but that's a sunk cost. And then when you bring our system in, you're looking at $600 up front plus $75 a month per terminal.
Food service is pretty low margin. How willing is an owner going to be
Well-
to throw away a cash register?
Well, so to just give you some numbers, the average coffee shop on the low end will do $400,000 a year. So that shakes out to about $700, $600 a day in revenue, and about $100 to $150 a day in profit. So on our end, we're looking at taking approximately a half to a full day's worth of profit out of a coffee shop to completely give them a new connected ownership experience that's personalized and customized to them.
Well,
So we found that people are, from our initial customers, we found that they're very excited about
let's
the
be
product.
realistic. Our current customers, guess how much they're paying for one of these devices?
Nothing.
Nuh-uh, $3,300, $5,500. They're willing to pay that much for one of these and still pay on top of that $75 a month. So if I take it down to $600, it's a piece of cake.
Why are they willing to pay that?
Because that's the current pricing structure for like an IBM system or whatever.
It's $10,000.
Yeah, and that's their willingness to pay right now. But our strategy is that
We want to attack more of the market.
yeah, it's not just that. It's that our current costs of getting a customer actually costs us that much because we're really personalizing this. We haven't built in the self-service model yet. So to cover those costs of us personalizing the sales process for them, we are charging a higher amount. But once we
This guy, Johnny Jeffers, he's paying $3,300.
no, it's so
He got it for free.
he didn't get it for free. No, it's about $3,000 plus $75 a month as it stands right now. But I don't really want
That'll
to.
change immediately once we get funding because we really want to decrease the
Well,
cost
it's-
of acquiring customers.
Well, it's that's not our business. Our business is a tablet that's sold online, and we're doing our initial prototyping with customers right now at that price. But that's not our business.
What percent of the coffee shops already have a computer on site?
50% have some kind of a touchscreen system that's a local software LAN setup.
So why not just be the back end of the cloud service provider and interface with the hardware that's already
Because-
installed?
Why don't
Sure.
I answer that question? So technically, you can't do that. You really can't do that. Current systems aren't even running on MySQL or Postgres systems. And they're using these ancient technologies that run on .NET frameworks.
I know I wasn't talking about POS,
She's
I
talking about
asked
the
about
hardware.
computers.
Computers, yeah.
The hardware.
Well,
You can
we-
definitely integrate to a computer.
yes, we can. We can integrate to a computer. But that's not, once again, our core competency. Our core competency is to take something and really give you a mobile presence and to give you a mobile experience. I don't want to just put this on a computer. Anybody can do that. Our competitors are doing that. I want to be different. I want to be able to offer you something that is infinitely expandable. Because I'm running my own operating system, I designed the operating system. It's Linux-based, Ubuntu Server 10.04. Because I'm running my own operating system, I can do anything I want in this. As a company right now, as a startup, we don't know all the preferences of our consumers. But the moment they tell us something new and it's very powerful, we'll program it.
Yeah.
But there are limitations to existing systems.
If I could just please add on to that, we actually found that the cost of integrating with existing hardware was more expensive for us than to just have somebody order a $200, $300 tablet,
Okay.
because then we have to remote access. It's just a huge pain that
It's
we
a
want to
huge
deal
pain.
with.
Tell us about your valuation. How did you arrive at $3 million?
Sure. Yeah. So we took a discounted rate of our current future cash flows, and and then we arrived at that $3 million
Based
value.
on 100 stores?
No, based on our 5-year growth plan. So if you take a look at the numbers, we're looking at 15,000 in year 4, 30,000 year 5. If you do the quick numbers at 15,000 stores, we're looking at about $25 million in revenue.
And have you fellows put up any of your own money or family money involved in this
Yeah.
transaction?
Yeah.
Of course.
We've been working on the company for 2 years. If you want the nitty-gritty details, yeah, we put in about 125,000 in. I was working a second job for a while, just to putting all the money towards a
You still have your burrito shop?
No, I sold the burrito joint, and that got us through for about 6 to 9 months. And then I got a second job, and I was, taking all the money and paying an Indian team.
And what percentages do you own, respectively?
I can go into our cap table. So we basically have the founders have a 70-30 split, and then there's a equity pool that's set up for the rest of the founding team of 15%. So the 70-30 was before the 15%.
And that's of the people that we saw on the screen there?
Correct.
Okay.
And sorry, as a follow-up to that, what discount rate did you use then, discounted about?
2.2. So
Okay. And your next raise, your Series A, I think you call them Series AA and Series A.
we look at this as a seed round. Sorry to give clarification. We look at this as a seed round because everything has been personal cash flow into the company so far. So we look at this as a seed round of 500,000.
And then the next raise will be, what, a year from now?
1 year from now will be an A
And
round.
the company will go from $3 million valuation to a $30 million valuation?
No. I don't know exactly what the valuation is going to be in the A round. It won't. $30 million is off the charts. It won't be $30 million.
I thought you said that for the next round it would be 20 to 25% equity.
Can you go back to that chart?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. So, so we're looking at a $6 million, roughly. This is guesswork at this point. Okay, just to be honest, we know where we're at in the seed round, but 12 months from now, things have been moving really fast. We don't know exactly where we're going to be. But our projections say that we're going to do roughly a $6 million raise a year from now to get us to the commercialization schedule in terms of number of locations that we want to achieve. And in that round, we're looking at giving up a total of about 20 to 25% equity in the company. We don't know what the pre-money valuation is going to be at that point. So,
Who are your competitors? I mean, tablets have just been introduced.
sure.
There's a lot of other people
Shane could probably take this
similar
one.
things. You've got a great looking product. But
Thank you.
There's a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Shane could probably
Definitely.
talk more confidently about it.
Definitely. We recently just finished a competitive landscape internally to figure out all our competitors. I can name 2 top ones, ShopKeep and Revel. Both of them run on iPads. And they have similar technologies where they update information to the cloud. But there are a few pieces that they miss. One is that they are currently going through gateways to become payment processors. So they themselves are not actual payment processors. They're not an ISO. So in terms of the revenue side, they don't have the potential as we do. Secondly, the iPad with an external dongle, such as the Square dongle, can only allow you to gain up to PCI level 1. PCI level 1 puts you at great limitations when you want to attack the retail industry. With our system, which is E2E encrypted, end-to-end encryption, when we send the data, we never touch the credit card data. We're limitless in how much we can go in terms of payments.
Yeah, and then
But I mean, as far as going forward, like in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to see a landscape with more competitors.
There's mostly iPads.
I think we will, and I think what we're going to see is that you're going to have now, instead of 2 options, which has been a cash register or a point of sale system, an expensive point of sale, you're going to see 4 categories. You're going to see a cash register, you're going to see an iPad system, and all these iPad systems, my belief is that they're going to blend in together. You're going to see the expensive system, and then you're going to see OWN. And OWN is going to be the alternative choice. It's a completely vertically integrated product that we put a lot of passion and design into, and we listen to our customers, and that's our product.
Well, what's the real barrier to entry here?
I can speak about our company. So, we put 2 years of extremely talented individuals to work on this product. You have payment integration, cash flow manipulation, receipt printing. It's not easy to take a website and make it an entire complete point of sale experience. It's very complicated. And so, the barriers to entry are significant. We're pursuing patents at this point to copyright kind of where we see this going in terms of encapsulating the entire experience. But it's not an easy thing to do. It takes really talented engineers at least several years to
How
produce.
many hours would you estimate that?
Jeez,
I work 24/7.
well, not literally, but figuratively
Sleep in the
speaking.
office.
I don't know. I'm not that good at math, but I would say that we're each putting in approximately 12-hour days, 12-hour days, probably 6 to 7 days a week
Because
right
I
now.
think the point is with some competitors that they do have a lot deeper pockets. If the tablet is truly going to become ubiquitous, then it's going to be, probably a pretty competitive market in a year or 2, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
The tablet market?
Pardon?
The tablet market?
I think that
No, this type of market, if the tablet is going to be used for applications such as this.
Yeah, I think that validates the opportunity. I think it really says that this is something that makes sense. It's something that this is where cash registers are going to be going, and we want to be a part of that. We want to contribute to that trend.
So from my perspective, this is really difficult to make, but once you get into it, it's actually really easy to understand. Companies like NVIDIA, and they're making these Tegra chips that are onboard processors with memories and CPUs all built within one board. This technology didn't exist even 1.5 years ago. But we saw that insight about 2 years before, and we realized it's coming. And the moment it came out, we took onto it, and we wanted people to make it for us.
Does it make sense to develop an app as well to coincide with your strategy here, an app for all different devices that people can buy themselves?
We don't look at the app experience in terms of point of sale because there's all these challenges in terms of integrating with cash stores and printers and other peripherals that are much easier if you control the entire device. But we do think the app experience is really interesting in terms of consumer-facing smartphone applications where you can look at all stores' menus and order, and which we can do because it's all real time on the internet. Other business and facing applications where they can access their sales data through not just a website, but actually a formal application. So there's many application opportunities there.
I was just thinking also from a competitive perspective. I mean, a competitor may come by and offer an app, and it all.
5 minutes.
And it may, I mean, I don't know how many people have an iPad now, but it's in the tens of millions.
Sure.
And instantly they can see that
Yeah.
there's a point-of-sale app that's available for $9 or whatever the price may be.
Yeah, I think that's going to that could potentially be kind of the very low end of the market. But from talking to customers, like, it would have been much easier for us to just put it on an iPad, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But what we found from talking to people was that they fell in love with the price point of the iPad, and that's what they loved. But in terms of the experience themselves, they wanted a business tool that was locked down, secure, and stable, and that's what we strive to deliver.
But from a tech perspective and a payments perspective, you can't achieve more than level 1 PCI compliance on current technologies with the iPad. We can't have a limitation with payments. If we're going to attack the whole retail market, we need more than just PCI level 1 technology. We need end-to-end encryption, and that's not possible on an iPad right now. It's just not.
Well, it's not a hardware limitation, it's an operating system limitation. You could have put a layer on the operating system. You didn't have to be in the hardware
Apple doesn't
business
allow you
to
to do
solve
that. Apple does not allow you to mess with their hardware. They will kill you.
But Apple's not the only person that's making pads
Agreed.
anymore.
I agree.
And you guys haven't looked at Symbol Technologies at all, I don't think.
I have.
Yeah,
I have.
This is something interesting. So when we started first envisioning the tablet about a year ago, the options in the Android market were very limited, and the screen sizes were typically 5 to 7 inches. So it was not there was no way it was going to be a business tool. And so we thought at that point, if we're really going to do this, we have to envision where technology is going to be going. People need good-sized screens that they feel comfortable using. They need something that's stable and locked down, that's plug and play, and that's why we pursued this path. And it started to work out for us. Our initial customers, the customers come into the store and they ask, "What is that?" I've never seen that before, and they look at it as a sense of pride. And like we had a customer, we just did an installation last week, and he brought his dad into the store to say, "Look what we have now. He was using a cash register. Look what we have now, Dad. This is a great thing." So. It's really been interesting for us.
I mean, there's a reason why I love MacBooks. It's because they're integrated hardware, design, everything about the operating system. And there's a reason why Apple is successful in that. People like that experience. People love that experience. And I want to be able to offer that exact same experience to our customers.
But in a way that makes sense for a business class device.
Can I give you some practical feedback?
Sure.
As an old school investor, you're trying to get in. You're here because you made it through the rounds that you needed to get. But I got your proposal, and if you were coming into my office, and let's say this panel was the Stu Clark Investment Corporation, I don't think you guys would get through the door. And the reason being is the first step was I couldn't understand your printed material. It was very difficult to glean from that what you wanted, what exactly you were doing. There was lots of statements about this and that. But as a practical matter, I think it's just some general feedback.
Sure.
It's got nothing to do with whether this is going to be successful or not.
Sure.
Ultimately, you're going to get in front of the people that you need to get in front of
Sure.
to raise the money you need,
Sure.
that really understand what you're doing. But part of this exercise was to get in the door, and that would have been problematic for me, given that I've got 25 other business plans that I'm looking at,
Sure.
and they've got to catch my eye in 10 or 15 minutes of reading it. And this was very difficult. The presentation has been very good.
Yeah,
but it was really tough to get a handle on what the heck you guys, it would have gone in the basket and I wouldn't have called you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the feedback, and
But that's
something
just
we can work
a
on.
comment. There's two parts to this thing, and one is that you got to try and get our interest without seeing us, and then when you do that, you see us and pique our interest. But I had real trouble with that.
Yeah, I apologize for that. And
did you get any feedback on that?
on the earlier round, we did get some feedback on that, and it was a similar sentiment. And so, you know,
Was there a reason? Can you give me a reason why?
yeah, it was that it was very salesy, and there was a lot of the business side was kind of missing in terms of the financials and the numbers.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm a believer that if you hear something from multiple people, usually it means that you got to fix it. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna
We'll
make some
fix it.
changes to that. So
Okay.
We'll fix it.
That should be. Thank you, guys.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our second presenter of the day. From the other the other U of M, the University of Manitoba, we have Northbright Diagnostics. I just want to let everybody know that today it's 15 minutes for presentation, 20 minutes for Q&A. Mr. Angad Singh is your timekeeper. He'll hold up a sign at 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and then he will tell you when to stop. And for the judges during Q&A, he will stand up here and let you know when the time is up. And a quick review of the judges for our team members. We have Mr. Guy Bieber, Mary Kay Marsden, Stu Clark, Lisa McDonald, Tom Formilo, Battle Brown, and Richard Wigington. So best of luck to the Northbright team.
Thank you.
Cavities. They affect all of us. I've had them, Reba's had them, and I'm guessing most of us in the room have probably had them at some point in our lives. The reality is 4.5 billion people in the world are left untreated from this oral disease. And when this happens, it can lead to pain, social anxiety, infection, tooth loss, other diseases, and again, very, very serious disease. And the problem is with this is that right now, diagnosing these cavities, it's only 49% accurate. We need better. We need a better diagnostic, a better dental diagnostic, so that patients can start improving their oral health. And luckily, we have that diagnostic. A diagnostic that is 98% effective, 98% accurate in detecting cavities early, more objective, and it provides dentists and oral health care professionals with quantitative results so patients can focus on preventative care. It represents a $4.2 billion addressable market. My name is Alex Verricchio. I'm the Director of Marketing for Northbright Diagnostics. We're an early startup company well poised to change the landscape of dental care and oral health care around the world with our pilot technology, the TwinBright Diagnostic System. Today, we're here seeking a seed investment of $1.5 million to commercialize this important technology and bring it to market.
So if you've gone to the dentist, you're very familiar with the current gold standard. It's a combination of two methods, X-ray and visual inspection. So when you go in, a hygienist will take up to 6 images of your mouth. A dentist will come and do an exam on the X-ray and look for signs of cavities or lesions. They will then do a visual inspection using Dental Explorer to check these hot spots in your mouth. However, by the time they find these cavities, the tooth is already considered damaged and the tooth must be either removed or that awful process of drilling and filling. Northbright has a solution, the TwinBright Diagnostic System. What exactly is a TwinBright Diagnostic System, or TDS for short? It's a US patent-protected early caries diagnostic device. So how it works is, using this probe, a hygienist or a dentist can scan your mouth or tooth, and it's connected to the equipment shown here on the screen. And through a simple user interface, it would show the hygienist or dentist if the tooth had sound enamel, developing lesions, or a cavity. How it works is it uses technology developed by the National Research Council of Canada, for which Northbright Diagnostics has worldwide licensing agreement and worldwide exclusive rights and any derivatives that stem from the technologies. Uses a combination of two technologies, optical coherence tomography, or OCT for short, and polarized Raman spectroscopy, PRS. What OCT is, it's a laser, and it provides a high-resolution image of the tooth up to 4 millimeters deep and provides a sensitivity of the device that allows it to detect the caries early. PRS is also using a laser, and it provides the biochemical fingerprint of the tooth. Shown here on the screen are images that the NRC has captured validating the technology. Right now, we have a working prototype currently in use for in vivo testing at the University of Manitoba on orthodontic patients. One benefit our device has over the current gold standard is it actually can show improvements in tooth health or remineralization of the enamel layer, as shown here on the screen.
Thank you. So who benefits from this technology? Most obviously dentists do, but what we've also found is that dental researchers greatly benefit from the use of this technology. There are essentially two forms of dental research. First, product testing, and then population studies. Every single time a new product comes to market, it has to be tested for safety and effectiveness. Does it work? Does it say what it can do? Is it effective against its competitors? So to do this, product manufacturers will hire a dental researcher to conduct a test on a population of individuals. Typically, it's about 500 individuals. The problem with the current method is that they use the gold standard right now that we're using, which is X-ray and PIC, and it takes a very long time to see any sort of change. And over the extent of this time, typically about 100 patients will drop out of a 500-patient study, which greatly increases the costs of the study and it decreases the validity of the research results. With Northbright, we can actually shorten this timeline by about 50%. Right now, there's no objective, quantifiable measurement that dentists or product manufacturers can put on their packaging because they can't prove it down to the specific point that we need to. So it's hard, in a market that's hard to differentiate yourself, this again furthers that. So we can actually give product manufacturers the ability to differentiate themselves from their competitors. Over the typical term or a typical study right now, patients are exposed to X-rays about 75 times. So you can imagine it's difficult to recruit patients as people don't want to go through that X-ray exposure all the time. And this is especially difficult in developing products for children because parents are very reluctant to put their kids in studies where they're going to be seeing this kind of X-ray exposure over a 3-year term. Cost to do one of these trials right now is $6.9 million. And we can actually bring this cost down to about $2.7 million, which is a 67% reduction in cost. We're first going to be going after, with our version 1 technology, our version 1 TwinBite system, which is a larger footprint model, after 260 dental researchers, with market entry expected in year 2. We're going to be going for 40 units sold, and we're going to be selling each of these at $250,000. Some key customers here we've identified include the University of California, San Francisco, University of Michigan, and North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We've already secured our lead customer, which is the University of California, San Francisco. And in 6 months from now, we're going to be taking our prototype down there for them to start using it in some FDA, with us in the FDA application process, and to start getting it in the classrooms to start showing future dentists how this technology works. Another positive about this market is that all of these groups receive funding from national health funders. One example is the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research. Every year, these funders provide dental researchers millions of dollars in grant funding to conduct caries-related studies and to conduct studies that would be useful with the system that we're providing. We've already talked to the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research, and they've expressed interest in our system and interest in funding projects that use our system. With our version 2 technology, which is a smaller footprint technology that we're going to be selling for $42,000, we're going to be going out to the mass dental market. Here we can provide them with some different benefits. First, they can actually start focusing, or dentists can start focusing on preventative care. So what that means is that instead of diagnosing a cavity late, they can diagnose it early, provide their patients with treatment for that at the same revenue levels that they're providing their current treatments. That provides them a great competitive advantage because when I go into the dentist, when you go into the dentist, you're not having to get your cavities filled. You're doing the same process except they're catching it early, and there's much less chance of further decay and further infection. Our system also brings in additional profits at about $3,000 per month, depending on the number of individuals that the doctor's testing. And lastly, it generates new revenue streams because dentists can start focusing on preventative treatments as well as reactive treatments. Another big application, and as Reba mentioned too, the application that we're looking at the University of Manitoba, is orthodontic patients. Right now, it's very, very difficult to diagnose patients with orthodontic work. So you've just gone and you spent $7,000 on braces, you get your braces off, and you've got a slew of cavities as a result of it. Because they can't get in there, they can't see where there's problems. Well, we've got a specially designed PIC that actually gets within each of those brackets and can start telling patients what's going on, give them some feedback so they can work with dentists throughout the course of their treatment. Our first market here is 69,000 multi-dental practices in the US, or North America rather. We're expecting market entry in year 3 at the unit price of $4,200, or $42,000 rather, or $1,400 on a 48-month lease. We're expecting 1,100 sales over years 3, 4, and 5. And some key customers here include the Houston Dentists, The Art of Dentistry, and Shine Dental, all leading cosmetic dentistry. The second market is the European market, where there are 67,000 dentists. We're expecting market entry here in year 4, with sales of 350 units over years 4 and 5. Same unit price here again, and some of our key customers reside in the UK include Bow Lane Dental rather, Harley Street Dental, and the Center for Advanced Dentistry. Lastly, we're going after the Japanese dental market, where there are about 24,000 multi-practice dentists. And here's Fujimi Dental, and we're going after sales of about 300 units in years 4 and 5. To distribute our technology, we're going to be working with either Pattison or Henry Schein, worldwide dental distributors. On top of this, though, we recognize we need to do our own marketing efforts, so we've hired sales associates for each of our core markets, an international sales manager, and we've put money into international trade show attendance and conferences, international trade publications, and international public relations strategies to help us push this forward. There's one other application, or a few other applications for Northbright Diagnostics, and that's soft tissue detection or oral cancer detection. It's already being looked at right now by the National Research Council, and the nice part about this, over the next few years, we're going to be working with our researchers to further progress this, and then we can actually take this application and put it right into the system. So we don't have to resell the system, we can actually do this as a software upgrade for those that already have the system in place.
So the opportunity is there, and we have the management team to make it happen. First, we have Mr. David Weaver, who will serve as our CEO and rainmaker of Northbright Diagnostic. He brings with him over 30 years' experience as an executive, is currently the president of Great Lakes Angels, and has successfully commercialized products for Johnson & Johnson. One of his notable successes is with Semantics, in which he commercialized a cerebral oximeter, and which means he secured investment and brought the company to IPO. We also have the three lead entrepreneurs, Mr. Alex Verchio, Director of Marketing, Ms. Nikki McNaughton, and I'm Reba Caucasian, and I will serve as Director of Operations. We also have Dr. Ling Pin Chu Smith. As part of our license agreement with the National Research Council of Canada, she has invested over 10 years of her career in this technology, and to date has secured over $1.3 million of grant funding towards the technology, with another $1.3 million expected to commence this year. I'd also like to highlight one key advisor we have on our board, Mr. Michael Foster. He brings with him extensive experience in mergers and acquisitions, and most notably is an entrepreneur mentor at MIT's Venture Mentoring Service. So let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Northbright has two unique revenue streams. One, the TDS system, which is the capital equipment itself, and two, the disposables required with the device. As you can see, we are generating revenue in year 2 and in the beginning of quarter 3. And we'll also be break even in year 2 as well once we commence sales. I'd also like to highlight that in year 5, a significant portion of our revenue is derived from the disposables, following a razor blade model. So they ask, since the release of the business plan, we've changed our equity structure. Today, we are seeking a $1.5 million seed investment in exchange for convertible debt. We will use these funds to complete the following milestones within the next year: R&D and FDA application. In exchange for the seed investment and convertible debt, it will be converted upon our next financing ask, which will be at end of year 1. Our second ask will be for $2.5 million, for which we'll use funds for our go-to-market strategy and also for FDA clearance of our dentist mass market version and for FDA approval. I'd also like to highlight one other milestone we have is we will be ready for sales in year 3 with our mass market dental device. In return for these investments, we are planning to be acquired in year 5, for which we have an exit valuation of $279 million using a 4x sales multiplier, in which we will return to a seed investor of a 24x cash-on-cash return and a Series A investor at 28x cash-on-cash return. This is comparable to other acquisitions that are currently in the market. One notable comparable is Quantum Medical Imaging, which was acquired in quarter 3 of 2010, which used a 4.75 sales multiplier.
So we've talked about risk mitigation throughout the presentation, but we did want to highlight a few of the main concerns that we have. The first is the lack of commercialization, or our experience as entrepreneurs, commercialization experience. And to mitigate this, we've identified a CEO with 30 years experience in this industry. He has industry in the North American, European, Japanese markets, taking products to market like we're doing here. Second is any concern with new technology. Luckily, our technology has already been validated, and it's backed by $2.6 million in research grant support. There's always some risk with FDA approval. However, both of our core technologies are already FDA approved in other applications, and we're working with Emergo, an experienced FDA consultant out of the US, to help shepherd us through this process as well. We've shown you we've got a very clear market here. We've got the dental research market first with our version 1 technology. We then go out to the mass dental market with our version 2 technology. We're ready to do this. We've got the patents in place that we need. We've got the systems in place that we need, and we've identified our markets. We've also got a core management team and a board of advisors that's experienced in this area and that has done this before. All we need now is your $1.5 million seed investment to help make this a reality. Thank you so much.
So what would be the time frame? I know you've projected a time frame, but is that based on other devices getting through the FDA system? This isn't a drug, so, and there's no X-rays involved, you're saying. So what is that? What does the FDA look at? What are they? What's their issues?
They'll look at essentially two different trials together. So they'll look at, because it's a diagnostic, they'll look at two different independent studies, and they see where the results come in. So we've already done that now on a smaller scale, so then they'll do it on the FDA scale. So because it's been done, it's already validated, that it's not expected for that to take very long.
Okay. And just one more question while I'm thinking about it. Why does this device, what's in this device that makes it cost? Like you guys, your cost of sales, or your cost to produce is 28 grand or something, or 27 grand, and you're selling it for 42. What's in there for 42 grand?
Yeah.
What is the...
Right here.
the components that are so expensive?
Yeah. Well, our initial cost of goods sold is really expensive just due to the low production runs that we have. But the key components that are very expensive, hopefully you can see it up here, are the actual like OCT that itself and the laser that we're using in the device.
Okay, so it's a laser. All right.
The price that we're selling for into the dental research, that's a price that they're comfortable with. Again, we're saving that difference typically in 1 to 3 trials. That's how they look at their pricing structure. So it's not an issue in terms of the pricing model. And we're doing a leasing option for the dentist too, which is what they like to see.
Yeah.
Also, though, we're actually as we enter into year 5 and we sell over 1,000 units, we also reduced our cost of goods sold down to 19,000, and in that same year, we're bringing down our price point from 42,000 to 37,000.
Okay, so you detect a, sorry to take up, but you detect a cavity,
Yes.
a carie or whatever you call it. I always thought once there was one, there's nothing you can do. You've got a cavity, you've got to get it fixed. You can't brush it away. You can't. They don't get better; they get worse. What does this? So what that you detected it early? You still have to get it treated.
Depending on where you catch it, actually, there's typically the diagnostics out there right now catch them in, we'll call them phase 2 and 3 of caries development.
Right.
There's called incipient caries, which are the very, very early stage caries. So if you catch those, you can actually, first of all, there's one here where you can see remineralized layer of tooth. So this is a patient at home using their own treatment, and they've actually used that, I think. They can actually rebuild the enamel with a paste. So if you start using a treatment early on enough, you can start rebuilding the tooth enamel that you've got.
Oh, okay.
So that's one thing. The nice thing with our system too, though, is once you do this, you take this treatment home. It's difficult to get people to abide by it. So it's like every time someone asks you to floss, you don't always floss the way you're supposed to. But nice thing with this, you actually start using this paste. You go back to your dentist a few months later. You can actually see on the screen what your self-at-home treatment has been doing for you. So that's a huge benefit. So it definitely helps with the compliance of patient care.
Yeah, I'm concerned about your revenue model, not for the research market, because research dollars will pay for that, but in the dentist market, there has to be a trade-off for the cost and revenue reimbursement for a drill cavity versus paste. And then adjunct to that question is, how do you get the third-party reimbursement approval for this treatment? And then what's the benefit to the dentist?
Yeah.
So there's about like 4 questions all sort of mixed in there. But you've got to tell me about your revenue model for the dentist.
No, that's fair. So with the leasing option, we're looking at a typical lease price of about $1,400 a month on a 48-month lease contract. When they outsource these or this technology, they're expecting that it would be about $35 per run for the patient, and they're expecting that it will fall under the billing code of a panoramic X-ray right now, so patients can still use it on their insurance. There's a couple different kinds of fillings you can do. The second kind of filling is, again, when you go in, you drill and fill it. You're using the needle. It's quite uncomfortable for the patient, and it takes quite a while. But there's a type of filling now that you can actually do that's earlier. Dentists charge the same amount for this filling. They don't have to freeze the tooth. They don't have to go in there, and it's faster to do. So it actually is generating them more revenue on a faster cavity. So you go in, you get a quick, it's less painful for you. You're paying the same price, but again, you don't have to, the dentist is making more money off of that. And lastly, the other piece of that too is where the dentist has said there's a big need for this is with children's dentistry. They don't bring enough money, charge less money for kids when they come to the dentist office because they don't charge the same thing, but they take up typically twice the amount of time. Because again, when you're young, you go into the dentist and it's like scream fest. So they don't want to be doing it. The dentist doctors, they don't want to have to deal with kids doing that. So they want to get them fix it early, treat them, seal them, and then they can focus on their parents. Does that kind of answer it? Or?
That's helpful. Now, why are you doing 2 510K applications? Why wouldn't you do just one? What's the advantage of having the first application with the separated OCT, lost the acronyms?
Yeah, the big one is just so we can get that machine out to market ASAP. So we don't have to ask for as much money today because then we can start using the revenue from that first system, from the research system. Researchers don't mind a big footprint of the system, and they're using it like that right now. So we want to get it out the door as soon as we can so we can bring in revenue for you in year 2. And then we can start using some of that revenue to help us fund the next version.
On that, though. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but so in year 2, you're going to sell a 2-part machine for $250,000.
Yeah.
And in year 3, you're going to sell a 1-part smaller footprint machine for $42,000.
Yeah.
Why would I buy a machine in year 2? Why don't I just wait a year and buy one for a small percentage of the cost in year 3?
Well, with that, we're going to be keeping it a little more customizable for the dental researchers, so they get all the component parts with it. For the dentist piece, they don't want all the detail, they don't want the computer screens, they don't want all that information. So we can then kind of work with them, the researchers can work with them to customize the applications for the dental researchers. And most importantly, dental researchers they don't care as much about the spending. They have the grant funding, they need to use it, and they want to start using it right away. And we're not going to be obviously publicizing our next version device.
In your model, though, you're phasing out selling that in year 3.
Correct. Once we feel we've saturated that dental research market. But we still will have the ability to produce those devices should we get demand for them.
So I'd like to talk about the National Research Council. So in the plan, it says you will have the license, and then in the presentation, you say you do have the license. So do you have the license or not? And what is it that you've licensed? And then what is the cost of that license and duration?
We're currently in the process of getting the license, and part of the license agreement is 5% royalties on our sales.
On everything?
Yeah.
Forever?
For the core technology. However, Northbright, we'd run the structure into the agreement that we would get
So on all repurposing and all derivative works and...
That would be the property of Northbright Diagnostics.
Okay.
So on that issue, do you have a signed letter of intent with the National Research Council?
We do. We're working with them with that.
Okay, so you just have to formalize it into a license and sign it, so the terms are pretty much established. And so who owns the patent, the National Research Council or you guys?
The National Research Council of Canada.
Okay, and they'll just license it to you?
Yes.
So are they going to be responsible for getting the patents and all the other jurisdictions that you want to offer your product?
No, we will be responsible.
And that's happening. The patent was issued in 2010, so that's going to be done over the next year. So as soon as we get the seed investment, that's what we're going to be moving on, is getting that patent.
You'll be getting the patents for them?
No, the additional patents or the derivatives will be ours.
But the base patent will be owned by them.
And they'll take 5% of worldwide, whatever, for their technology.
So if I'm an investor then, I'm buying a company that has a license. How long is your licensing agreement going to be?
Right now, we're projecting it to be around 20 years.
20 years? Okay. So then let's talk a little bit about the terms or valuation you're using. You're using a $1.5 million convertible debt. And what's the term of that? What do I get?
Sorry?
What do I get for that convertible debt? Do I get interest paid?
Yes, that's actually a recent adjustment to the business plan since we released it.
So how much interest are you going to give me?
Right now, that's just, that would be under negotiation because right now it would be converted on the second round of financing.
Okay. Then let's talk about the company used as a comparable for this. And you said it was going to be 4 times sales. They sold out at 4.75 times sales. Did they own their IP or were they a company that licensed as well?
They were a private company that got bought out by Carestream.
So they developed and own their own IP?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, the sales multiplier was also consistent with other research findings we had.
Did they own their IP or did they license as well?
Some of both.
Sorry?
So it's just, I think, a question of valuation. You've got a cost that these other ones don't have. They had their own, that they didn't pay anybody 5% on the way through. So your valuation might be a little You have cut it back, so I'm not sure
Yeah,
what.
we cut it. Yeah, we
how
looked
the
at,
numbers work.
depending on the company, there's some that have gone with the licensing in terms of valuation. They're pretty consistent across the board.
Yeah.
Speaking with our advisor too, his experience has shown that valuations can be in the range of 5 to 10.
Yeah.
So we went on the lower end of the multiplier.
Okay,
Have
so
you, sorry, go ahead, Stu.
you got a list of, looks to me like very experienced, seasoned dental people on your board of advisors. Do you know, or do they know, does anybody know of any other device like this being
Yes.
Researched now?
Well-
What else is sort of in the hopper that?
Basically what they're at right now is, there's a few technologies out there right now that they're single-use technologies or single technology systems. So how it works, one of the common ones is called a diagonal dent. And right now what it does is goes in with the laser, examines. But the problem with this is that there's a lot of false positives. So that's why you have to use two technologies together. Dental researchers will actually not use any of the existing technologies for their research because it essentially doubles their workload. So they go in, they use the technology once, and then they have to go back in and check it again. But with our system, the OCT essentially does the check, and then the PRS system validates that check. So that's where the foolproof comes in, and that's actually where our patent is on the use of the two together. So nobody else can use those two systems together.
Okay.
I have a question, just going back to NRC again. Have you thought about an arrangement with them in the form of an equity stake? I mean, it seems to me that if you go to sell the business and you have an end date on your agreement with them, it may complicate things when you want to execute a sales strategy. And just on top of that too, our Dr. Lynn Shue-Smith, is she an equity stakeholder in the company as well?
No, she's not. In regards with National Research Council, speaking with Doug Strange and the talks with him, their standard procedure is to do licensing agreements for the technologies they have.
Okay.
And no, she's not an equity stakeholder. However, from experience other investors had with NRC, typically National Research Council employees do not leave their government jobs. However, she does have a vested interest in seeing the technology move forward as she's been working with it for over 10 years.
How does she benefit from that?
From,
How does she benefit from that? In terms of your company being successful?
she's a dentist by trade, and also with the royalties that will generate from her revenue back to the NRC.
So she has an arrangement with NRC as well?
Yeah, she is the lead developer and the lead inventor on the project. So again, what they've told us, or what she's told us, is that the success of a researcher is how well their research product does. She's put 10 years of her life into this system. She wants to see it do well. She wants to see it out there and being used in dental practices, and that. She's not as much a businesswoman. She's not as interested in that. She's interested in seeing the research go forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What advantage is there to being an investor of the first tranche versus the second tranche? They both show, or well, at least the information you have in here, you could say you changed some. The return on cash on the first tranche is 30%, the return on cash on the second tranche is 34%. So why wouldn't I wait till the second tranche, get some of the risk out of it, and invest it that way?
Well, in regards with the risk right now, we do have a working prototype right now in use, and we have validated technology. And with the first tranche, we're always open to discussion for other options that we would have to mitigate your risk or to reward you for investing with us early.
Is that why you went to a convertible debenture? Like,
Yeah.
what's the?
Well, right now we're a seed company, so it's in the first tranche. It's hard to put a specific valuation.
Right.
So in terms of, we'd rather delay the valuation into our second round of financing.
Okay.
So you had, or it seemed like you had success stories, so I'm a little confused on your success stories by region when you don't have a device. Those, the targets for those regions? Like you had the world slides and you had the names of specific companies?
Yeah, those are just, those who we're planning on targeting too.
Okay.
So those are leading groups. They're large multi-dental practices. Dental practices, they pool, if there's multiple dentists in the practice, they pool together their capital expenditure budgets.
Yep.
So they've got a larger budget to spend. And these are all leaders in terms of cosmetic dentistry, leading technology. There's a new laser technology out now, which is, most of these dentists have that. It's another laser, again, it can be used for filling, instead of going in the traditional way with the drill, you can use a laser to treat it, and you don't have to fill it. But again, you have to catch the cavity early to do this. So they're, of course, a perfect candidate for the technology because they use our device, they find the cavity early, then they can use their existing laser technology to treat that cavity early. So that's why we've chosen them.
Do you need different approvals to go into the different markets?
Yes.
In which one?
In the European market, we're also, in year one, we're applying for a European patent and also our CE mark. And then using Emergo, which is the lead medical device consultancy, we'd also use them to go into the other target markets, which they do have experience in, and we'll also need to hire them to be our agent in those countries.
Japan is similar to Canada in terms of certification. It's,
Okay.
they operate like that. And they recognize FDA.
And is power relevant to the scanner working properly? Electric power?
It is. Yeah.
So do you need a different device for the different countries?
Just a different plug, international
Okay.
plug.
I heard an interesting statistic from a radiologist friend of mine, and this is just for your own benefit. He told me after we were talking about the nuclear meltdown
Yes.
in Japan, and he said that people are throwing around all of these ideas about the toxicity of the amount of radioactive material in the air and everything. He said that, and this would be very, I think, appropriate for you guys to look at. He said that a dental X-ray is 100 times more potent than a chest X-ray. So if you go and get, like, in terms of the amount of radiation it takes and the concentration of it and the lasting effect in your body.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any kind of radiation involved in your technology, which you don't, that would be something that you might want to highlight when you're talking to people about that.
Well, even the trade show on a couple of days ago, that seemed to be folks' biggest concerns. You asked, when was the last time you had an X-ray done? And it's like, well.
But there's X-rays and there's X-rays.
Yeah.
You can go and get a chest X-ray every month and for the rest of your life and be okay. But if you did that with a dental X-ray, you might be dead in 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not
an excellent point.
That's what.
You'd have great teeth.
Kind of, maybe a bit of a digression, but use it.
Yeah.
I think it's a interesting.
No kidding.
Statistic.
Well, yeah, that's definitely.
The other thing too, when I read the plan, I was really confused. I couldn't really tell. I think you did a much better job of describing the go-to-market strategy.
Okay.
But when I read the plan, I was like, who are you selling to? Like, who is the customer in this? And you start with all this consumer data and, so I think, it's a consumer play, and then it's a dentist play, and then it's a research play, and I was just all over it. So if you're going to present this plan again, I think you need a better description of the phases.
Okay.
And I think there's some visuals that are in your presentation that would enhance your plan.
Okay, definitely.
Can you let me know what all these people have done, or what contributions they've made, or are they just names on here? This advisory group. There's some very powerful looking people here. How active are they in your business, and how much do you rely on them, and what have they given you in terms of? I mean, it's a nice list. Looks good.
We've relied on them heavily, actually quite a bit. In terms of the dental piece, we consult as often as we can about all of these pieces, especially when we go and look at new revenue sources. We have to check with multiple dentists, because you talk to one dentist or you talk to one researcher and they say, it's all about patient care. I don't need to see any revenue from a product as long as it's helping my patients. You say, okay, that's great. So we go along with that, and then we talk to another one and say, no, we need to make sure we're making some money. So we've accessed them as much as possible to make sure that we're hitting all those points and making sure everything's as accurate as possible.
Also, Dr. Peter Brushman, Alex has spoken to him very regularly in terms of validating our price point and what their sensitivity was, and also educating us on their grant process for purchasing capital equipment and helping us understand that process and their RFP and their sole source process they do for capital equipment and research.
Do any of these guys will help you get in the door on the research side?
Yes.
Peter Eschman. He's actually done some clinical trials, and he's again, we're going to take the device out to him in 6 months from now. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
On that point, you mentioned FDA clearance as a key risk. Is there any risk of it not getting cleared, or is it basically a slam dunk and it's just a process? What's your view of that?
It's primarily a process. It's just, again, FDA is one of those things that it flags investors' attention often, so we did want to make sure that we address that.
There is always a risk with FDA, but however, We're working with an experienced medical device consultancy group to help us with that process. And also, there are also some similar predicate devices that we would investigate with a consultancy group to help us get through the process. One comparable I found was a QA, and they had their FDA approval in 2009.
Who's on salary in the first year and a half?
CEO, CFO, and the Director of Technology, Marketing, Operations. I believe technician as well.
All of them? For $26,000 a month?
Yeah. Not getting paid.
Morning. And this afternoon, our judges are from left to right: Richard Wigington, Battle Brown, Tom Cormilo, Lisa McDonald, Stu Clark, M.K. Marsden, and Guy Bieber. So, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand, Siam Organic from Sasson Graduate Institute of Management. Take it away.
Is this working? Everyone can hear me okay?
We can. I think we're all right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Over half of the world consumes rice on a regular basis. Even the non-traditional consumer, such as the United States and Canada, can now call rice one of its major staple food. A lot of these rices that we consume, such as the delicious white jasmine rice, is very delicious, but it lacks the nutritional profile. And the nutritious variety, such as the brown rice, just simply doesn't taste good. But don't take my word for it. If you go to Google and type in the word brown rice taste, the most common search result that you get is how to make brown rice taste better. Our innovation and our product give a very simple but powerful value proposition. We combine the best of both worlds, the delicious taste of the world-famous Thai jasmine rice and the powerful antioxidant benefit of the traditional black rice. And we call this Jasberry. Jas signifying the delicious taste of the jasmine rice and the antioxidant benefit of the berries. So what is so good about Jasberry? Let's see. Let's look at the nutrition profile of the typical white rice and the standard for the healthy rice, which is the brown rice. And then we have the traditional black rice, and then we have Jasberry, which far supersedes all of those other rices, especially in their antioxidant benefit offering, which is well documented to have preventative health benefit for diseases such as diabetes and cancer. Even if you compare Jasberry to other so-called powerful antioxidant food, such as green tea and blueberry, we still come out on top. In fact, blueberry is considered by USDA as the most powerful antioxidant agent in a common food. We have intellectual property protection. We have filed for under new plant variety protection in Thailand, and currently we are filing under UPOV, which gives us protection in 68 countries around the world, including major rice-producing countries such as the United States, China, Vietnam. Therefore, we have global exclusivity. Now, my CMO will tell you a little bit about our exciting market.
We choose to grow this rice organically because organic is the perfect market for our product. Not only are the consumers most health conscious and nutrition conscious, they're also willing to pay a high premium. Plus, the market has been growing at a scorching 20% CAGR for the last decade. And the competition is fragmented enough for a new entrant like us to establish ourselves. Now, how big is this market? Worldwide, this market is estimated to be about $2.52 billion, of which the US organic rice market accounts almost half of it for $1.43 billion. In order to better understand this market, we commissioned a market research, and what we found out was that almost 27% of the consumer account for 80% of the consumption, which is our target market, the heavy and moderate frequent rice eaters. So how does this consumers, who is the typical consumer, what does she look like? She's a woman, she's young, comes from a high income household, and not only does she buy for herself, but also for her family. And what does she value the most when it comes to the purchases? The number one is the nutrition, the number two is the taste, and the number three is the price. Now, the next logical step is for us to gauge the market interest. And when we described our product and asked them, like, what do you think about this product? Would you want to switch to this product? Over 90% of them were interested, and not only interested, but practically excited about a product. In the words of a consumer, it just makes sense to buy something like this. So once we have gauged the interest, we went on to do a taste test. And we have been doing it around the world across, and especially in the US. And what we found out was that people love Jazzberry's taste. One of the happy coincidences among the many happy coincidences we have had so far is meeting Jenna, who introduced us to Mr. Mark Alexander, who has spent his lifetime in the nutrition industry. He's an ex-radio host, hosting a show about truth and nutrition. And he said, not only is he willing to promote this rice, but also willing to invest and help us, be a contact person in the US. And now is the time to taste it for yourself. Eating is believing. So I hope you can feel the taste, and hope you'll have a similar reaction to what you see on the screen. It's soft, and it has a distinct taste, and you can feel for yourself how it is. So we have been spending a lot of time with our target consumers, and some of this is reflected in also the packaging that we have come up with. We have directly addressed some of the issues, such as it being non-GMO, it being gluten-free. The cooking time is especially important because it cooks in 20 hours. Few days back, yesterday we cooked like the Manitoba wild rice. It took more than an hour for us. So cooking time is important. It's a great asset for us, and we put it right on the top. In addition, in the shelf, we have a distinct positioning as the most nutritious rice. And our pricing reflects the fact that consumers are willing to pay a higher price, but we give them a perception of value for money by pricing it at $4.49 per pound. In addition, where do these consumers shop? They go to shop at Whole Foods, especially Whole Foods, and then there are supermarkets also where organic products are sold, such as Safeway. So how far are we into executing this goal of reaching the consumer shelf is something which our business development director will tell you about.
So not only the consumers are very excited about our product, but also the retailers and distributors. We have been so far contacting the major retailers in the US, Safeway and Whole Foods. We are also in contact with the category director, Andre Turner. She's been expressed her impression about the product. She's mentioned that she's very excited about potential Jazzberry, and she will get back to us within a few weeks. So we expect that we'll have another meeting with her within 2 weeks when we go back to San Francisco. And we also contact with DPI Specialty Foods, who is a unique, specialized first-tier distributors in the U.S., supplying to Whole Foods and all major supermarkets. Diane, she also promised us that with the interest in this product, she'll be pushing the meeting with us with the West Coast Whole Foods. And so far, the progress of Siam Organic, we have contacted major key people in the whole supply chain, and so far the feedback has been very positive. All of them have shown us that they are very confident that we will be able to launch Jazzberry by January 2012, and therefore during discussion, we also come up with a negotiation of the pricing. The pricing that we make for them offer enough sufficient margin for both the distributors and retailers, because we offer higher margin than the average industry that they're making. So with the consumers that are ready, the retailers and distributors are behind us, we are very confident that we'll be able to push Jazzberry on shelf by January next year. Now, I'll let our CEO talk about how we'll be able to supply the product.
Thank you. Now that we have a winning product, the perfect market, and a fantastic progress, Siam Organic can also assure you that we have a supply sufficient enough to meet this huge demand. So basically, it starts off with the Jazzberry we're having right now, which comes exactly from this piece of land and these groups of farmers. Jazzberry is here, it's real, and it's successfully harvested. And now with our special cooperative model, we can tremendously scale up our operation. And this is how we do it. So basically, we start off with the these farmers from the northeastern region of Thailand, who are commonly known to be impoverished in that cycle because of the white conventional rice. But Siam Organic, we're passionate and we're here to help them by supplying our very own jazzberry seeds as well as the organic farming expertise so that these farmers can successfully harvest jazzberry. Now that our market is covered, then we can guarantee the buying price from these farmers for 2.5 times higher than this normal conventional rice. As a result, these farmers will become debt-free. And more farmers around, they'll see our model and they'll join our model, thus scaling up our business. Not only that, we also do have a special quality control system that emphasizes on strictest quality control, starting from the seed to the end of the packaging product. And we do this externally and internally. For externally, we also have a USDA certification, which emphasizes from the farmland and also the food facility process. While we also have our own internal system, which starts from seed distribution, the rice paddy before going into the milling process, and also the jazzberry before the packing. So our checkpoint is already in full control. And Siam Organic, we're leaping to the huge milestones, starting from the new plant variety protection in place, as well as the jazzberry trademark, which is registered in January. Now we expect it to be in the ordering cycle of Whole Foods and other retailers by October, which as a result, you'll see our jazzberry on shelf by the next January. And also, by 18 months, we'll penetrate to the European market. And as for, we have a little spoiler ourselves. Let me show you. This is a byproduct of the jazzberry rice. It's a premium nutritional supplement, jazzberry rice brand. Thai FDA approved. It's another one of these value-added product line that will be in our pipeline in the future. So our CFO will talk more on how you can be involved with this exciting venture.
Thank you. For the financial perspective of Siam Organic, we believe that we can have a very successful, profitable for any investor who want to invest in our companies. The first year estimation of the revenue start with $6 million, cover with the target customer of 30,000 people in the US market. And we will grow it to 96 million within 5 years and coverage of 550,000 people in the market. This will result in the net profit of 20 million. And this will be the best case valuation for the investor who want to invest in the company. However, if we include the factor that we're going to enter into the European market, it will increase the revenue and profit. In 2013, and the revenues go up. And furthermore, if we include the fact that we are in the process of studying the potential of the rice brand, it's gonna skyrocket our revenue and the valuation as well. Therefore, this is the conservative estimation for any investor who want to invest in our companies. So what we are looking for investor is that we want 1.1 million investment capital, but we are not gonna ask it until we get the solid order from the retailer in the US market. And what we want right now is like the investor who have the retail experience in the North American market and with a strong social heart and the passion with the social development investment as well. In the return, we will offer 30% shareholder equities, and the IRR of the investment project is 81%. To clarify more our business is that the most of our funds will be used in the purchasing and the marketing activity in the first year of operations. This is why we will not ask for the investor money until we reach the agreement with our customer. I will pass the presentation to our CEO.
Our management team is extremely capable of executing this plan. My name is Neil and I'm the CEO of Siam Organic. I have extensive management experience in the health and nutrition industry, as well as investment banking experiences. My CMO here, Pradeep, he's a successful entrepreneur with a successful startup in India and also has extensive experience in international retail marketing. Our COO comes from generations of family of rice export in Thailand. Our business development director is a consultant to major agricultural cooperative, and our CFO is a credit analyst for major commercial banks. And we are supported by the globally renowned rice science researcher, as well as the president of Thailand Rice Exporter Association, myself, and 2 investors who add value to this company. Our board of advisors consists of international branding expert, as well as the Royal Thai government and the Bank of Agriculture and Agricultural Cooperative in Thailand. They are very much behind us because not only do we offer financial return, we offer social return. So to summarize this for you, investment opportunity: sizable, fast-growing market, scalable, reliable supply, IP protection, and we have a sustainable business model. Siam Organic welcomes all investors that would add value to our company. I'll open the floor for Q&A now, but before I do that, I just want to make sure that the cooking time is 20 minutes.
Yeah.
20 hours. I just want to make sure that.
Where do you get your seeds from? Is that region from Thailand that you talked about? Is it a seed business or is it a rice business?
It is a rice business. The intellectual property protection is on the seed, and the seed is naturally developed by our inventor.
And so you give the seeds to your growers in Thailand? Is that the plan?
Correct, correct.
And then you buy the rice from them?
Yes.
And is the seed self-reproducing, so the rice they plant will reproduce the seed, or is it hybrid where they have to buy from you every year?
Okay, so basically it is a reproduction, but we have to have quality control over the seeds also to ensure that, because it's organic seed, and actually I must say our inventor, he's a globally renowned rice science researcher, so he would probably be able to answer that question better, but basically he controls the seed production for the company.
But once a farmer buys your seed and plants a crop, he could save part of the crop to replant next year?
Okay, part of the agreement between us and the cooperative is that when I give them the seed, they have to return the seed back to me 1.5 times. So they will save part of their production to give me back the seed. That's a part of the agreement.
Oh, interesting. So he's growing in inventory.
Your margins in your financials show 26% EBITDA. That seems awfully high for an agricultural product. Do you have any evidence of other agricultural products with that kind of margin?
So formerly, the agriculture business in Thailand, the EBITDA will range between 7% and 8%, but it is in the commodities categories. So the price will be governed and regulated by the central market and something like that. It will be determined completely. So every producers, every traders have to sell under the same price. But we are in the different categories since we have the IP protections of the product. So we can determine the price as well in our entry into the markets.
So what would be a margin for other agricultural products, just to give me a sense of?
It's about 7 to 8%.
How much?
7 to 8. 7. Then from 7% to 8%.
7 to 8.
And just to add on to that, it's an organic market.
What does that mean?
It means that the consumers who buy it are organic consumers.
No, but that's not what it should mean. It should mean there's some control or some type of planting process and control over the growing that qualifies it as organic,
okay.
Right? What these people in Northeast Thailand Northeast Thailand?
Correct.
What do they have to do? How do they have to change their crop planting and crop harvesting methods or fertilizing methods to be organic? What
Okay.
do they do differently?
Okay, so normally from a conventional land to an organic land, it takes 3 years to convert. Currently, we have 4,800 acres of land, which are 100% organic. That will cover our projected sales revenue for the first 2 years. And in the meantime, a lot of other land within the area are under conversion.
Yeah, but what's non-organic up there then? What's the difference between organic and non-organic? I'm just curious.
Okay.
It can't be just the name.
Yep, chemical-free, pesticide-free, good for the environment. So they have a bunch of criteria that would qualify. But typically, it takes 3 years from conventional land to an organic land.
Okay.
To convert.
Is organic a worldwide term?
Correct.
So is organic the same in Canada as it is in Thailand?
It is not. For example, the United States has its own standard called the NOP standard. And when you qualify for that standard, you get the USDA approval. In the European market, they have an EU standard. In Canada, you also have your own standard. But that standard is now actually, this year, will converge with the American market. So Canada and America will go under the one standard.
So in Thailand, where you produce these seeds and the actual rice, do they meet those North American standards?
Yes.
And are they checked on a regular basis?
Yes, they are checked annually, and they're checked on an annual basis. But that's the certification. That's the USDA, and that's
it's a stamp. Okay. Sorry, Stu, jumped in.
What's the risk, or have you thought about if you have a crop failure or some kind of a catastrophic loss you've got 4,800 acres? Or is that what you're planting to get going? And then you'd get obviously more land, but it would be contiguous. So what happens if you have I don't know what would cause a rice crop to fail, but if it failed, you have no product. A bug or disease or?
So currently the land that for the original production is quite limited, but we plan to grow the rice in the different, we try to diversify and contract with the cooperative in the different areas. We have identified some cooperative in the northern part and some in the eastern part of Thailand as well that can have potential growing this kind of rice.
Okay. So fingers crossed in the first couple of years, but once you get going, you're going to.
Yes.
I have a question about the rice industry. How long does it take to grow a crop? 3 months? And so is growing your crop very similar to growing other types? Okay. Same shelf life?
Not the same shelf life. The rice that we grow is highly nutritious, and this kind of rice has a shorter shelf life. And if you can see the packaging that we have to do, it has a vacuum packaging, is because it extends the shelf life to be 1 year, which is longer than a normal packaging on the shelf that you see nowadays.
So Arkansas here in the United States is, or actually we're not in the United States, but here in North America is the largest rice exporter in the world. Have you thought about production, in North America?
Okay, actually part of our business is that one of the vision for our company is to help our country. Okay, we have what we believe is the best rice in the world from a nutritional standpoint. And for the first time in the market, from a taste standpoint, actually it tastes good. Something healthy that tastes good. It's kind of simple. But in Thailand, we already have a strong organic cooperative that we have been working with for 4 years. So they have well underway. If we come to America and try to teach the farmers how to grow it, it would mean that moving our whole facility here, and that would be something that would require a lot of capital investment and so forth. And for the capacity that we have, we don't believe that within 5 years we need to expand anywhere else to fulfill the demand, even if we go into Whole Food and Safeway.
So I'd like to go back to Battle's conversation about the gross margins and things like that. So you're achieving a market penetration of 7.8%. That's kind of a lot for rice, right? So do you have any comparables of anybody that's been able to, in the organic marketplace, achieve that market penetration in that period of time?
Let me answer this way. The 7.8%, in year one, our projected, the consumers we need is 31,000 people in the first year to achieve the 6 million sales. And in the fifth year, to achieve 96 million sales, we need 550,000 consumers. And if you put that number into perspective, Safeway has 1,500 stores across the US. On the West Coast alone, it's 200.
Yeah, and how many rice products do they carry? Right, they carry hundreds of rice products. Organic, non-organic, every flavor, with spices, without spices. So you're competing against, you're an unknown brand, you got great packaging, but you're an unknown brand competing with shelf space with a consumer who doesn't know about you against hundreds of products.
Absolutely. What we believe is we have a distinct product, and as you can see from the shelf that no rice variety has this kind of nutritional benefit. In addition, we have quashed the market interest, and the amount of rice that we are going to sell is also in line with what is moderate consumption for the regular rice eaters. So in terms of so what we believe is, you can see it's a completely distinct thing. Not only do we stand out in terms of the packaging and design.
See, I asked a good question.
How much wild rice is sold?
What you see on the screen. So not only do we stand out in terms of the design, the value addition, so that makes us confident. Basically, the consumer reaction, the market, and we have been talking to people, the distributors as well as the retailers. So they are probably the best judge if at all there's a risk that this product wouldn't sell. And from the feedback that we have got from them, we are confident we'll be achieving. In addition, our marketing spend will reach about 1 million consumers in order to get 30,000 people to convert, which is very, very what you call reasonable.
So what is your consumer marketing program? Did I miss that in the plan, or did I? Because it's really dangerous when you think you're going to outperform every other company that's ever existed before you, particularly when you're going after a foreign market, right? So, I have some concerns about the growth rate and the gross margins, and I do have a major concern on your ability to charge 2.5 times more than any other product that's out there.
In terms of the pricing, as you can see, it's in line with the market. So the choices that.
But that's the pricing to the retailer, right? Right. And you're assuming that the retailer is going to mark it up.
This is the final retail price.
To the consumer.
To the consumer?
Yeah.
Oh.
Farmers. That's the supply
Oh,
side.
okay. I misread that. Me?
The Organic Canada Wild Rice?
Yeah.
Well, this is a great product for you then.
It is. The target market. Okay, so the price is 4.49 to the consumer. Okay, so take me back to the marketing plan, please. I misread that. I apologize.
So as you can see, our key spending is in 3 areas. The first one is, of course, the trade promotion, which we have to spend with the retail, taken as a percentage of sales. The second one is the in-store advertising, as well as some of the marketing sampling programs that we have budgeted for inside the store, because we have seen that it's a simple thing. People try it, they buy it. It's as simple as that. And we also have some creative stuff, such as in-store chef. So basically, you'll be cooking up some nice dishes, and then people can come over and sample it. And along with that, we have some interesting menus to hand out to the people that will give them some creative ideas about what to do about it. Not only that, we are also spending a lot on the digital and PR. We believe we have a very strong PR ability. For example, so far we have received about $75,000 worth of free PR already after having won a business plan competition in Bangkok. We have PR on 4 fronts. 1, the product is great, it's special, it's unique. Second, the management team. You see us, we are all young, and we are all out to achieve something. It's really important from that perspective. Third is a unique business model, never tried in Thailand before. The fourth is the kind of social impact. So we have been on television in 10 countries. We have been in newspapers in 2 countries. So we do believe we have a strong PR ability. In addition, using our digital marketing techniques, we can actually target very specifically. For example, someone searches for brown rice, we'll have an ad next to it. So we have budgeted for a very specific spend on how we are going to acquire our customers.
Okay.
Do you guys have any money in it? What money? What do you have in it?
Right now, we have already do some market testing and have incurred some market research upfront and in advance already. So the investment we have done so far is about valuation is about $200,000. When we prepare the cash injections at the same time with the investor, about $50,000. Prior we I mentioned before, we have to get the solid order from the retailer first.
Right. Okay. So you've got an inventory of seeds right now? How did that develop? The inventory of seeds to
right
produce
now,
the first
right
years?
Now.
Okay, let's clarify that. Okay, so the seed has been successfully harvested last December, 100% organic. And basically, we use that as well as we grow this twice per year.
Yeah.
So as we are talking right now, the second crop is underway. So we will have a whole lot of seeds getting ready for the supply at the end of this year.
Okay.
And on the distribution table, so the inventor of the seed has 34% of the company?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
it's 34.
And are there any other royalty payments or anything to that inventor, or is it purely equity in the company?
For him, it's purely equity.
Okay.
I have a question about the exit strategy. If I'm an investor investing in this today, I don't really see a clear exit strategy for me.
Okay. Well, as a former investment banker, I would, I'm a former investment banker, so I'm probably qualified for the exit strategy. We have extremely active M&A in this facility. As you can see here, if you look at some of these companies, Mars, Kraft Food, Hershey, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, the green box you see here is the organic brand acquisition. And they're not acquiring them cheap. This is 300 million. This one is 100 million, 200 million. So really, in organic industry, acquisition is extremely common because that basically it's very difficult to grow organically, as in grow it through yourself. If you're a conventional food company, the consumers don't trust the conventional food company, so you have a whole lot of regional organic brand. And in the M&A transaction we have seen, SunOpta is this great example. They've been acquiring companies, Canadian companies.
I guess my follow-on question there is that you say that the social investment is very important to you. You say that a shareholder would need 75% of the votes to actually vote to sell a company. And it looks to me like if one of those buyers was not willing to continue, whether with your farmers in Thailand or to continue that social aspect, that the minority shareholder, the 30% shareholder, would be voted down in selling the company.
Okay.
So it's not strictly a price decision of what I'm saying. An investor going into it, their primary concern would probably be return on investment.
Okay. So let me understand your point. I'm not quite sure that I understood it properly. So the investor's going to come in. They're going to hold 30% share in the company. If there should be any shareholding structure change, they will need approval from that shareholder. Correct? That's because we need 3/4 of the votes. Right. Meaning that you be a minority shareholder with a veto vote. So we can't change the shareholding structure.
Yeah, but I also could, if somebody came to you and wanted to buy the company, unless, it sounds to me like unless they would guarantee that they're going to have the same social values that you do, that you're not going to sell the company. So I could be stuck in this company for
ever.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to develop some sort of an exit for minorities or some other liquidity option besides because she's right. You guys could say, well, it doesn't matter what you think. We still think we want to help the farmers in northeast Thailand, so we're sticking with this. It's doing well. There's no option. And investors need to be able to get in and get out.
So I get your question now. Sure, I misunderstood it. Basically, the first suggestion that you raised, we are working on that. Different type of liquidity options. But the second part is the social aspect is actually not something that we do purely for social aspect. In organic industry, scalability is notoriously hard to achieve. In fact, if you look at the quote down here in the M&A slide, many organic food companies are struggling to find adequate supply of organic ingredients. Now, all over the world, scalability is a huge problem. We believe that the social model, the impact to these farmers are the only way to attract these small farm holders to join us, and that's the only way we can really, really scale up. Because they need knowledge to manage their land. And we guarantee the highest quality product in the market. So therefore, we believe that the social return and the financial return will align.
I have a final question maybe. I thought it was delicious. It looked beautiful on the plate. Where can I buy some?
Yeah, Whole Foods.
Thank you.
That's great.
That was great.
Just to quickly go over our judges, on your right, we'll go right to left. We have Guy Bieber, M.K. Marsden, Stu Clark, Lisa McDonald, Tom Cormilo, Battle Brown, and Richard Wigington. So, joining us today from the Windy City and Northwestern University, it's Goody Shirt.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. We're here to talk about GoodyShirt.com, the company that's going to match consumers with their perfect vintage T-shirt and do social good not as an extra effort of the business, but as a byproduct of the model. All right, so in order to introduce you to Goody Shirt, we're first going to introduce you to a guy named Kevin Shea. Kevin is a 28-year-old product manager at Apple. More importantly for our discussion, he is a wearer and lover of printed T-shirts. He wants a T-shirt that he can use to display his unique personality. All right, so in order to look at Kevin Shea's options in getting a great printed T-shirt and track his progress, we're going to use something called the Axis of Printed T-Shirt Awesomeness. This is proprietary technology up here. So starting off on the right, he could go to a place like Walmart or Target. He's probably not going to get a great T-shirt there. I think we can all agree on that. Going a little bit better, he could go to a boutique retailer of T-shirts, your Urban Outfitters, your American Apparel, or maybe go online, go to a place like Threadless.com. And there he's probably going to get a pretty cool design. But what he's not going to get, he's definitely not going to get a unique shirt. Those shirts are mass-produced, and as such, a bunch of other people are going to have the same or a similar shirt. Also, those T-shirts are going to have one of two things invariably. The first thing is something we like to call forced irony. Now what that is it means that because the T-shirt's designer meant the shirt to be funny or ironic, it's actually less ironic in reality, and it's definitely less cool. Also, what he could get is he could get something that's actually just a reproduction of something that's cool. What is cool? What is cool is a vintage T-shirt, the kind of shirt you're going to get at a store like Salvation Army or Goodwill thrift stores. Not only are those shirts authentic, but those shirts have something great, accidental irony. What that means is that because the original designer didn't mean it to be ironic or funny, it is in a new context, and that's what makes a truly awesome T-shirt. All right, so if this is the best Kevin Shea can do to get a cool T-shirt, why doesn't he do so? Well, the problem is the shopping experience. Thrift stores have terrible organization, and there's a very low quantity of T-shirts in a given size, color, and content combination in any given store. What this means is that in order to get a great shirt, Kevin's probably going to have to go to 3 or 4 different thrift stores. What we want to do is we want to solve Kevin's problem. What we're going to do is we're going to aggregate these great vintage T-shirts from thrift stores around the country and place them online. This builds a massive selection of vintage T-shirts that Kevin can then use our search and browse combination to find his perfect vintage T-shirt. On top of that, we'll guarantee quality through a rigorous inspection process, and Kevin can feel great about his purchase. Because our suppliers are nonprofits, at least 25% of its proceeds are going to be going to a great cause. All right, so how does solving Kevin's problem translate into a great business model? Well, here it is. Here's our business model in 10 seconds. We take a product that was going to sell for at least, or at most $1, probably be turned into rags. By transforming the customer experience, we transform that product into something that can go for $20 online. All right, so finally, who's going to launch this? I think we've got a great team. First off, our operations guy, Kevin Armugam. He has 5 years' experience in operations and supply chain at General Electric. Moving on to Andrew Fazekas. He couldn't be here today. However, he has 5 years' experience in digital marketing, also some experience in launching websites. On top of that, he has product management experience at a little company called Amazon.com. Finally, Hanif Perry here, our marketing guy. He's a marketing consultant, not only general marketing consulting, but also brand consulting, which is very important for our business model. Finally, myself, the least impressive. I'm CEO, CFO. I have 4 years' experience in finance and operations at a large international manufacturing company, and also, again, product management experience at Amazon.com.
So I want to take us through our market opportunity. At the core, we're looking at males 18 to 34. This number roughly represents 41 million people throughout the US and Canada. We estimated that about 5% of these people are printed t-shirt wearers. We were fortunate enough, actually a market research firm in Chicago loved our model, conducted free market research from us, and we learned that on average, about 11 t-shirts per customer per year are purchased among this segment. This leaves roughly 23 million shirts a year and a market size of $500 million with an average price point of $22 per shirt. So we also used this data to do some market segmentation. We landed on 3 basic segments: the hipster, the yuppie, and the saver. Each one of these segments values something unique and has a unique willingness to pay. They all value selection. However, we chose to go after the hipster segment because they value uniqueness. In addition, they represent roughly 37% of the market. They value the social aspect of what we're doing, and that ultimately drives up their propensity to pay for more than $20 per shirt. So how are we uniquely positioned to deliver against this segment? Well, at the core of our model, Goody Shirt tries to provide the largest selection of t-shirts and the most unique selection of t-shirts. If we look at our other competitive set, we see eBay, Etsy, Busted Tees, and Threadless up there. So how are we positioned to beat these guys? Well, Threadless.com, a $30 million success story out of Chicago, Busted Tees. We believe at the core that we meet our target's needs because we provide that uniqueness, that accidental irony like I'm wearing right now. When we look at the other competitive set, eBay and Etsy, what is it about? Well, here it's about quality. You're buying used t-shirts, there's a stigma. We need to ensure a consistent experience for the customer. eBay and Etsy, marketplaces of literally thousands of vendors, cannot ensure that experience or that consistent selection. So how are we going to deliver against this target's needs? I want to first focus us on the Goody Unique bucket. This is really important. Because we're in negotiations with exclusive agreements with our nonprofit partners, we are able to get significant PR coverage through our core-branded activities. In addition, we're going to pursue the Goody Advantage, which is the traditional social media outlets like Facebook and Twitter. One interesting thing to note about this is that users of these social networks are more likely to share links that have social tie-ins to them. We're also going to develop what we call our College Ambassador program. This is where we're actually engaging our target on the front line, and we're turning these people into brand evangelists who are going to talk about the unique offering that we can provide. We're also going to pursue all the conventional stuff like search engine optimization, paid search, Facebook ads, banner ads, etc. So what do we love about this business model? It's not just the great high margins that we get from the business itself. There are clear monetary benefits to our nonprofit partners. Goodwill and Salvation Army, one of their primary goals, as you can imagine, is fundraising. As Reed mentioned, more than 25% of our revenues are actually going back to the nonprofit partners. In addition, we're going to seek out opportunities to promote those nonprofits through our site. We're going to sell partner-branded t-shirts, Salvation Army and Goodwill shirts through our site. We're also going to solicit donations at checkout. And what this means is when you're a user and you actually engage with the site, you can donate $1, $2, or more to that nonprofit partner that helped you find that great shirt. The indirect benefits are almost as impressive as the direct benefits. And this is where we're actually going to focus on Gen Y and millennial engagement. We're in our negotiations process with Salvation Army. One of their key 3 strategic priorities is exactly that. They loved us as they saw us as a vehicle that can actually make that happen through our young, cool, and awesome brand. And what it is specifically is just focusing these tired brands, injecting a new vitality into those brands that is going to be relevant for that demographic. With that, I'm going to pass it to Coven, who's going to talk through operations.
So by partnering with nonprofits, we now have access to a large quantity of unique T-shirts and also get the benefit of consignment terms. But one of the things we need to keep in mind is that both Goodwill and Salvation Army rely solely on donations for their supply of clothing. What that means to us is there's a high degree of variability in the number of shirts that we can get at any given time. Because of that, we've chosen to follow a dual sourcing model where we'll rely on nonprofits for our primary source of shirts, but also have a secondary supply from vintage T-shirt suppliers to fill the gap between demand and shirts from nonprofits. So once we get a shirt into our facility, each shirt will follow a similar process. It's going to be inspected, washed, merchandised, entered into our system, and into our inventory. That means upon every sale, we simply have to pick the shirt and send it straight to our customer with minimal time in between. So what does that mean from a dollar standpoint? For every shirt, we get about $22 in revenue and about a 49% margin after variable cost. The major cost being the top one, which is the cost of the shirt, as well as the 25% additional donation. After that, we have our labor processing as well as the shipping to the end customer. Now, taking a step back, why does our business model make sense and why is it sustainable? Well, right now, we're going after exclusive agreements as quick as possible with these nonprofits. With this in hand, it creates a self-reinforcing cycle where we now have the largest supply of authentic vintage T-shirts, which means we have the biggest selection, which drives the largest customer base, which in turn makes us very valuable to our nonprofit partners. This essentially completes this self-reinforcing cycle that is the core Goody business model, which also helps power our expansion opportunities, first being cheapyshirts.com. We expect about 1/3 of our T-shirts to not be sold on our Goody Shirt site. These will then flow to a parallel site which will be at a lower price point and targeted at a different segment, which is the saver segment that Hanif talked about earlier. Next, we can leverage our unique partnership with nonprofits to not just focus on vintage T-shirts, but to go after something, say, as women's clothing, which is a much bigger market. Last, we now have a large customer base and data to show what is it that they truly value in terms of design, and we can leverage that as well. Now, where do we stand? We really believe in this business model, so much so that we've already invested $35,000. We're going to go live on June 1st, and we'll be going full scale this fall with an expanded website as well as full-scale operations. Where do we stand right now? We're in negotiations with Salvation Army, specifically a national board member as well as a Chicago board member. 2, we've already contracted a web development firm to create our website by early May. 3, we've already started our inventory build of shirts. And 4, we're moving into our initial warehouse next week. With that, Reed will go over financials.
Thank you, Kevin. We're going to talk about financials in sort of 2 tranches here. First of all, granular financials monthly until we break even. Looking at that, our operating plan to get there, and then after that, we'll look into long-term financials, so return there. So you can see up here, we expect to break even about a year after we go full scale on GoodyShirt.com. At that point, we'll still have about $90,000 in cash on the balance sheet, which represents a pretty decent cash cushion. The other call-outs on this graph, as you can see the purple line, there's some spikes there. What that is that is our capital investments. And then also around those same times, you're seeing drops in operating cash flow. Those represent, 1, our launch of Goody Shirt full scale, which increases our cost. And then also that funds the 2 expansion opportunities that Kevin talked about. Moving on to the annual financials, we expect annual financials. We expect to be at about a $12 million company by year 5. That's U.S. dollars. Cash flow of about $2.5 million. What that represents is about 400,000 shirts per year on our core GoodyShirt.com website. That number may seem high, but we think it's pretty doable. Threadless.com, that comparable Hanif talked about, actually was at 750,000 shirts per year by year 5. During their first 5 years of operation, they had no marketing budget. Looking at something that probably doesn't belong on a financial slide, and that is our nonprofit impact, the bar graph there. By year 5, we expect to have generated at least $5 million in extra income for our nonprofit partners. That is just through T-shirt sales alone. That does not include any additional donations we might get from our customers, and it does not include those indirect benefits that Hanif spoke about before. All right, so finally getting to the meat of it, the ask, what we want. As Kevin said, we already invested $35,000. We're asking for an additional $285,000 investment in exchange for a 17% preferred equity stake in Goody Shirt. That works out to a post-money valuation of about $1.7 million, and we're targeting to get our investors about 10 times their money in 5 years, or a 60% IRR. And that's based on a valuation at end of about 5 times EBITDA plus cash sitting on the balance sheet. So finally, how do you get your money back? First of all, we think Goody Shirt makes a great acquisition target. As Kevin talked about before, we've got those exclusive, hard-to-get supplier relationships, the customer data on what exactly is cool, and finally, the reason for most e-commerce acquisitions, and that's a desirable, engaged customer base. More likely is that we'll actually exit through cash flow. We expect our investor stock to be worth about $3 million by year 5. At that point, we expect to have $4 million in cash sitting on the balance sheet, operating cash flow again of about $2.5 million. What drives that? Goody Shirt requires a very low capital investment, gets most of its inventory on consignment terms, and finally has great margins. What that results in is a company that throws off a lot of cash, and that's why we think Goody Shirt is a great investment. With that, we'll take questions.
Why do you need us?
Well, what we need, we could launch the business slowly, which we could do with that $35,000. If you looked at our financials, we expect to actually be making money by September if we don't expand quickly. However, if we think about that self-reinforcing cycle, where we need to lock up that supply to again have that largest inventory, that allows us to lock up all of North America, and it just basically allows us to grow faster. It's rocket fuel for our growth. We don't want to be a locomotive. We want to be a rocket.
Yeah, no, I know that, but there's not enough really. I mean, the amount that you need to achieve what you're saying you're going to go, there's enough. Should be enough friends and family that you could cobble together 20 grand a piece and have this thing fully financed, and you wouldn't need to dilute it at all.
Yep.
What's our role? Like what? I mean, I like to. If it works, it looks great.
Yep. So I think there are 2.
Why are you giving it up to strangers?
Yep. I think if you think about there are a couple of reasons for that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think when we go out, when we go to when we're doing an acquisition, if we did need to raise more capital in the 5 years after this to grow again, we think this business opportunity throws off a lot of great opportunities. It's going to be a little bit easier to get investors on board if we have a pretty clean ownership structure. So instead of 20 different people who can throw up their hands in the air and say, I don't want to get diluted, we'll have one investor who's going to be able to say yes or no on that. The other thing is, interestingly enough, we were talking to some people here in Winnipeg about a strategic investor, which friends and family don't really provide. For example, this investor in Winnipeg was a company, I think they ran something to do with car lemons. Lemonfree.com, apologies. What they have is this proprietary search engine optimization software, which would mean that our website could generate a lot more traffic through search. Those kind of investors with expertise and proprietary technologies are going to provide a lot more value to us than friends and family.
I'm just trying to get my head into your supplier of vintage, and I want a little more clarity on what is vintage. So if I've got it figured out, these salvation places all over the United States and say Canada, for example, will make a decision on something that's vintage, stockpile them as they come in, put them in bags, and then ship them off to you guys at their expense?
Yeah, first I'll have Kevin talk to the operations, but I'll focus on the definition of vintage. We use vintage interchangeably in this presentation, and we understand that, but one of the things that we looked at in our market research, it's not so much the vintage that our consumer base values, it's the social aspect of what we're doing and the uniqueness of the product that we're offering. So for example, my t-shirt right here is not a vintage shirt, but it's accidental irony. And so we use those terms interchangeably, but that's the huge value proposition. So it's the aggregate of all the shirts. And I'll let Kevin talk about the operations side of it.
Okay, so wait, so you're using a word that has a specific definition, right? So vintage in clothing means that it's 10 years old or more, right? It's got a specific definition. Yours are used.
Yes.
They're not vintage.
Some of them are going to be vintage and some of them are going to be unique. And because we're uploading each shirt individually into our catalog, we're going to emphasize which ones are vintage and which ones are unique.
At the website.
Exactly. And there's going to be a lot of search and browse capability, and that's going to be one of the general buckets we're going to focus on from the user experience.
Okay.
I'm a bit of a t-shirt junkie myself. I've got lots of them. And if my house burnt down, I'd mourn the loss of my t-shirts probably more than anything else. But I'm slightly older than your target market, and it never would have occurred to me that there is actually a market in used t-shirts. When did this market develop, and why do you think it's going to continue? And how long do you expect to have a shelf life here? It seems to me it's a rather new phenomenon, and it might just be a flash in the pan. What's your views on that?
Sure. Actually, if you look at the vintage T-shirt market specifically, it's actually been happening since the 80s. I mean, there are small fluctuations in popularity of vintage T-shirts, but that phenomenon's been around since the 1980s. I think outside of that question is that we really view T-shirts in a way as a vehicle for other expansion opportunities. So T-shirts are high margins, they're easy to deal with operationally, and through those indirect benefits, those branding benefits that Hanif talked about, they're the most attractive thing we can do to get into these nonprofit partners and establish these great relationships. That again moves us into the vintage clothing market, which vintage has been around since at least the 1970s. It's been an important market outside of that. Let's say people decide that used clothing no longer works ever. We still think we're going to be developing some great operational and marketing expertise and merchandising expertise on the retailing of unique, one-of-a-kind products, even if those would be unique products. So what we've got is the t-shirt market that's been around for 30 years, doesn't seem to be going anywhere, vintage t-shirt market. Expansion opportunities that's driving into the vintage clothing market. And finally, our operational and merchandising expertise that this will allow us to develop and build up.
I also wanted to follow up on the second half of your question as far as operations go. So with Salvation Army, they have 140 distribution centers across the country. And talking with them is that they would actually, based off our criteria, have a separate bucket in terms of sorting that would be kind of the goodie shirt bucket.
Now, the 140 distribution or stores?
Distribution centers.
And what's the difference? I mean, it sounds obvious, but are you talking like a mega warehouse in every city?
Yes. So Chicago, I believe, has 4, and I don't know how many retail locations they have, but those 4 around 40 retail locations.
But most stuff is dropped off at the retail locations, though.
The donations go from there to the distributions, they're resorted and then sent out.
And then they go back to the store?
Yes.
And so they would bundle and some would come to you?
Correct. And we would have first pass at the t-shirts that we want because we're in the distribution center.
Under contract, by contract?
That's the discussions we're having now.
Are there other organizations other than Salvation Army?
So the second one is Goodwill, and actually one of the things they suggested to us is that they could have a program called Hire Hipster, and that's actually their words, where that helps in 2 ways. One, helps us obviously, but also helps their mission in trying to engage our generation. So now that for us, they have a volunteer that is also our target, by the way, that's selecting the shirts. So we'd have some sort of program like that with them. But those 2 are the major that are nationwide type thrift stores.
So I'm still struggling with the whole vintage thing here, because to get the price, it can't be just a used t-shirt, right? So you got a bunch of people at Goodwill with 0 training, looking at t-shirts and certifying them as vintage?
There's going to be 2 steps in terms of the filtering.
Yeah.
So they would be step 1 as far as filtering. I don't know if they're going to be able to say exactly every shirt that they pick is not going to go on our website, but it's going to at least help filter it down. From what we saw, 1 out of every 20 shirts from our experience as far as going through different thrift stores qualifies as a goodie t-shirt that we want to put on the website. We don't expect that to be the number of shirts. We expect to get more shirts that are filtered by them. Then we would have the final say in terms of what goes up and whether it qualifies.
Yeah, so I was struggling with your pricing model.
Sure. So what you're saying, I think, first off, highlighting the market research that we were very fortunate to get through that marketing company. Sample size of about 250 printed T-shirt wearers, 18 to 34 males. This was actually across the U.S. was the sample size. T-shirt wearers from the United States. What we found in our research is what we did was a conjoint analysis to get that number, which allowed us to look at, okay, what's happening on the market. So we know that the average selling price of a new T-shirt from Urban Outfitters, Threadless, etc., is about $19. What this conjoint allowed us to do was to measure the difference in willingness to pay for our product, which we actually didn't describe as a vintage T-shirt on this survey. We described it as a ironic or clever T-shirt coming from the Salvation Army or Goodwill. What we found was that yuppie segment and that saver segment, they didn't like used as much as new, which was unsurprising. The majority of the market didn't like that. However, our hipster segment, which again very much values that accidental irony, they think it's cool to have a used T-shirt. They actually valued that used T-shirt about $2 more than the new T-shirts from Urban Outfitters. Which, a strange thing about the hipster market is this hatred for Urban Outfitters, because what they see that is that yuppie market trying to beat them. So that's in addition to what's happening on the marketplace, eBay, etc. That's what that is.
But the assumption is that they're going to buy 8 used T-shirt per year. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, so the data was focused on that, and what we learned is that they buy, on average, it was about 11.1 shirts per person per year.
But that's total, right?
That's total.
That's not used.
Yeah, and in looking at that demographic values the authenticity, and that's sort of their first filter in purchasing T-shirts. I think the reality of it, and as many of us know in the room, you can have the best market research in the world, and it's always going to be a little different from the picture that's actually taking place. Anecdotally, we actually have supply problems when we have people over because they're sifting through our inventory, our friends, and trying to buy T-shirts off of us. And also, you know, we've been really active in sort of the Etsy community, which is a startup online, and also through eBay, and we've been tracking where people are buying these authentic, ironic, and vintage T-shirts. And the data is pretty impressive for some of the price points that these shirts are commanding.
Well, to prepare for this meeting today, I went and researched eBay and did some market research on it. So in one that's like unused, the price is extremely high, right? So if it's a vintage shirt, a Harley vintage shirt, and it's unused, yeah, that'll pull a high price. But the used shirts, the price drops substantially.
Yeah, I think
as low as 99 cents.
I think when you go on eBay, what you're going to see is some auctions that are starting off, and they're going to be at 99 cents. And even the ones that are, maybe that's their auction price. What you're not getting is you're not getting the amount of traffic that's we hope to filter through that particular shirt. So eBay's got, I'm not going to say we're going to have more traffic than eBay. That's a ridiculous statement. But we do assume to have a lot of T-shirt specific traffic. And also what we do, we expect to have a better mechanism to match consumers with their perfect T-shirt. So the issue with these T-shirts is that, this one, it's a matter of taste. And because there's some people might not value that, and on eBay they're probably not going to find that perfect person for their shirt to make that match made in heaven. What we believe is that when we find a shirt that is a perfect match for a consumer, for example, let's say we have some shirts that are, Northwestern Football Championship 1996. We call that a long-tailed shirt because that's an example of a shirt that on eBay is going to go for almost nothing, because the chances of a consumer looking for a shirt that has something to do with their past is pretty low. However, on our shirt, we feel, or on our site, we want to match these consumers with their perfect shirt, and that's a shirt that's going to be priceless to them.
One other difference is a consistency of experience. With eBay, it's coming from a different person each shirt you look at. So there is that fear of, I might get a good one this time, next time what is it going to be? So I think one of the things is we're focusing solely on T-shirts. So there's some added cachet that we know what we're doing as far as sorting, et cetera, as well as we're going to have 100% guarantee, and it's going to be a consistent experience for whether you get a shirt today or you can buy a shirt next month.
Just two things quickly. I think it's $4.95 to ship the shirt. So that really brings the price up to about $25 then, eh?
Yes.
And no resistance based on your research in that regard at all?
Yeah, actually we looked through that, and then that's actually very standard for the industry. The minimum price you can pay for shipping on a Threadless.com shirt is $4.99, and that's done through USPS mail. That's a shipping and handling fee. The actual cost for us to ship through USPS is at most $2 from the farthest point-to-point destination. So we actually feel really good about that number.
So you make money on that?
We will make some margin on
What
that.
can people request? Mail? Mail delivery?
Yeah, they can.
That is mail?
USPS.
USPS. Sorry, sorry about the United States Postal Service. The reason this is important is because the T-shirts actually fit within most post office boxes, and USPS is the only deliverer that has universal keys to access all of these post office boxes. So it's actually going to deliver a better customer experience. That being said, if one of our customers is looking for expedited shipping, it's certainly going to be available, and that's another margin opportunity for us.
And my final question is related to the inventory that you're going to get from these various organizations and staffing requirements. You're going to get, how many shirts are you going to have in your warehouse in Chicago?
So I can, well, at peak, we're going to have steady state 20, it was 20,000 at peak.
20,000 individual, likely vintage shirts.
Correct.
Okay.
So your business plan mentions wholesalers. Who are these wholesalers and where are they getting their supplies?
So there's actually, we've identified 5 or 6 that will probably, we'll use one of those 5 or all 5 of those. They employ people that pretty much just go out to individual thrift shops, or they sift through massive amounts of clothing, picking out just any piece of clothing that they think has value. Most of the brick and mortar vintage t-shirts that you find, at least in the US, use one of these as their suppliers.
And so you're actually going to subvert their sources with your exclusive agreements or not?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to make a small dent. If you look at these, vintage t-shirt suppliers, when we say vintage t-shirt suppliers, we're talking about vintage suppliers. So a small portion of their business is vintage t-shirts. We will be, hopefully, and that's something that we think is an advantage to us when we grow large enough, we can hopefully start to constrain the supply of those things. However, what we need to be in is we need to be in thrift operators that have large operations. So Salvation Army, for example, which in their warehouses, they're processing 30 million things through a year, which makes our operations more efficient. That is not the entire thrift market, and that's not their entire source of supply. So I mean, those guys are still going to be around. The other thing is, I think maybe the concern would be, okay, they don't want to deal with us because of this. We've found about 8 of these different suppliers. So unless all 8 of those are going to find a way to collude with no one cheating in selling to us, and we expect to be the largest purchaser of vintage t-shirts, we don't see that as too big of a hurdle in dealing with them.
Well, why don't you just co-opt them and commission them out to sell through you?
I'm sorry, didn't understand what you said.
Why don't you give them a commission to sell through you? Then they can manage their own supply through your website.
Yeah.
So our primary thing is still working with the nonprofits. We look at these suppliers as simply as a stopgap, for a gap in between demand and the number of shirts that we can get from nonprofits. Because from the marketing standpoint, we see a lot of value and willingness to pay with that partnership. We wouldn't want to go in the other direction because we think then become a little bit more of a generic t-shirt vendor.
Okay, let me shift gears a little bit. Where do you get the $20 per shirt price point? Do you have any research to back that?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I think if you look at the willingness to pay, which was from our conjoint, that was around $20. Our financials actually have 18. We use $20 in our presentation. It's a round number. However, our financials show about $18 per shirt. So we have some room for that. That is not every shirt at $18. That's a combination of somewhere between 14 and 25-ish, which is pretty standard in the printed t-shirt business. That price point is actually very important from a marketing perspective. What we're trying to do with our pricing is to signal quality and to signal that we're in the same choice set as a Threadless.com. We don't want to be comparing ourselves to used t-shirt suppliers. We need to be put in that. So what that drives is a need for us to have a high price to convey value to the consumer. On top of that, looking at the thrift store or the vintage stores that are out there selling these, looking at what's happening on Etsy, etc. People are paying at least that for a lot of these shirts in the marketplace.
Okay, you also mentioned reproduction shirts in your business plan. What kind of intellectual property issues are you going to have with that?
Absolutely, that's a concern on that. When we say, I think the word we used was reprint. What we would like to do is actually have shirts with designs inspired by t-shirts we see. So if it's a Baltimore Orioles t-shirt or a Toronto Blue Jays t-shirt, that'd be a better reference. Obviously, we're not going to be able to just take that one and make a good design. However, the majority of these shirts with accidental irony are coming from organizations like high schools, colleges, etc. Not using the college logo. So there'll be there are concerns there, but we still think it's a viable management strategy that we can move around.
Should be it. Thank you, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready for our last competitor of the day. Just to remind everybody that at 6 o'clock, the reception will start, and it will be down here. So it's going to be very important that once the final competitor is finished, that we exit the room so the hotel staff can flip it so it's set up for a nice cocktail reception, at which we'll have hors d'oeuvres and, once again, some beverages for you. And in keeping with our competition with the University of Oregon, we will be quick. So it says 6 to 8. My goal is to have you out of here by 6:50, 7 o'clock at the top end, and especially for the lucky winner of the elevator pitch so that they can get to their big dinner over at 529. It is time for our last competitor of the day. They are here from the University of Oregon. But before they start, let me just introduce the judges to you. From left to right, we have Battle Brown, Richard Wigington, Tom Cormilo, Lisa McDonald, Stu Clark, MK Marsden, and Guy Bieber. And here from the University of Oregon is Sonus. Take it away.
Good afternoon. We are Sonus LLC. These are my colleagues, CEO Tom Kramer, Blake Sebas, CFO, General Counsel Jen Costa, and I'm Erica Penner, COO. In 2007, Congress passed the 9/11 bill, mandating 100% of air cargo screening at the peace level. We coupled this with recent terrorist attempts, and we put air cargo on the forefront of national security issues. Today, over 8.5 million tons of air cargo is shipped annually, and that's in the United States alone. About 10% of that is liquid. Liquid air cargo is very high risk and virtually impossible to screen. Current screening measures include manual processes such as swabbing and canine detection. What that 10% translates into is over 5,000 55-gallon drums of liquid shipped via air cargo per day. All of that is inadequately screened. There are currently no technologies on the market that can screen for threat liquids until now. Our company, Sonus LLC, is working with Pacific Northwest National Labs, or PNNL, to develop a technology called ROW, which specifically identifies the liquid contents of a sealed container. It can tell the difference between Coke and Diet Coke, but more importantly, it can identify every single one of the 30 liquids on the threat list identified by the US government. Why is liquid air cargo such a problem? First, let's talk about some incidences. Last October, 2 packages from Yemen went through 2 screening technologies before intelligent information tipped off security. Not only did FedEx and UPS take a huge hit on their operations, but also stocks were definitely hit hard. Next, liquid narcotics, specifically liquid cocaine, has been identified and confiscated at U.S. airports on U.S. soil. Had Roe been in place, none of these incidences would have happened. Next, 100% screening has not been reached. In fact, it's only at about 30% of all air cargo being screened today. Virtually no liquids are being screened at all. What the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security is doing is pushing private shippers to screen their own cargo through the Certified Cargo Screening Program. Facilities are being certified in under 30 days, and at this time, 77 technologies have been placed on the qualified products list. Not one can screen for threat liquids. So why is Roe the solution? What Roe does is it provides accuracy and speed to current manual screening methods, which are costly, unreliable, and absolutely time-consuming. Because the government is shifting the responsibility to private shippers, this is increasing the demand for cost-effective, innovative technologies that, most importantly, don't impede commerce. We are confident that Roe will be ready for market by January of 2014. It's been in development for the last 7 years, and over $7 million have been invested thus far, drastically reducing technological risk. Which brings us to our vision, to safely and efficiently screen 100% of liquid air cargo. As founders of SONUS, we are committed to collaboratively working with governments, air cargo shippers, and security companies to fully comply with this mandate. I'm now going to pass it off to our CEO, Tom, to talk about the technology, how it works, our business strategy, and market opportunity.
Thanks, Erica. This is an artist rendering of Roe. What you've got right there is your sealed container of liquid. Then you have the handheld device, which has the transducers on it. These transducers affix to the side of the container and emit a sonar pulse, traveling through the liquid and measuring the density, velocity, and attenuation. This information is wirely transmitted to a database where it's cross-referenced and the liquid is identified, and then it's either classified as threat or non-threat. In this case, it was a threat. It's a good thing Roe was in place to catch it before it got on the plane. I'd like to show you how it works in action. This is our lovely attorney, Jennifer Costa. She's got what appears to be a normal container of Mylanta. She gets it on the platform, lines it up, tightens up the transducers so they're affixed on the side. Now she's going to operate the tablet PC, which houses the database. Just hits acquire data, and it reads, Octane Booster. That looks like Mylanta. We're going to take a closer look. It is indeed Octane Booster. That's demonstrative of the fact that the external appearance of containers can often belie the contents. This is the handheld beta prototype currently at PNNL. As Jen just demonstrated, it's extremely easy to use. She had no formal training prior to that. It's non-disruptive, seamlessly fitting into the existing infrastructure of air cargo. Its cost, it comes in at $38,000, making it drastically cheaper than the hundreds of thousands spent on x-ray machines, or the close to $250,000 needed to operate a canine unit. Its size, it can be operated by a wide variety of operator. There's no real restrictions on who can use it. It's customizable. The database can be tailored to whatever group of liquids that you're looking for. It's innovative. This will increase our customers' throughput by 5 times, and the efficiency will go up drastically. It's safe, not exposing the operator to the contents of the sealed container. And it's IP protected. We recognize the usefulness and innovativeness of this, and it's patented through 2027 on both methodology and apparatus. The market, as Erica has said, we've chosen, is the air cargo industry. This is in large part due to the federal mandate calling for 100% screening of air cargo. This mandate compels our 2 private customers, airlines and air cargo shippers, to buy us. So, in addition to meeting the mandate, they get the value added as well. And the kicker on why we chose this industry is because analysts estimate that the air cargo industry will grow 5.9% annually through 2029, ultimately peaking at $180 billion. All processes and equipment associated with air cargo will also experience this growth, making this an attractive opportunity indeed. If you look at the pie chart, that shows our competitive landscape. You'll notice that it's dominated by very large players, with actually 3 of them having more than 80% market share. This is due to the cost intensity of this industry and the requirement for heavy research and development to remain competitive. That said, there are always avenues for new entrants, which often function as research silos and are simply acquired by these larger companies. Blake's going to talk about that a little bit later in our financials and exits, though. Our management team is diverse, with a great skill set that will really help take SONUS to the next level. I've got entrepreneurial and business development capabilities. Blake had 2 years of financial experience before joining this team. Jen Costa, 4 years of legal experience before coming on to SONUS. We're all well versed in the operations of our organization, and Erica has 3 years of human resources experience prior to joining this venture. That said, we do recognize that our weaknesses on this team. We don't have a lot of C-level experience. We don't have an engineer on our team, and we're also lacking some industry experience. We do have a comprehensive board of advisors. Jen's going to talk about that and our risk and mitigations a little bit more in depth. From a design and manufacturing standpoint, PNNL will continue to tighten up and work on the firmware under the oversight of Sonus LLC. The product prototype will actually be developed by Stratos Engineering out of Seattle, which has a great portfolio and a wide range of clients ranging from Microsoft to Nike to Oakley, and they also have an ultrasonic arm of their operation. Finally, manufacturing will be done by OSI. They currently manufacture Rapiscan, which does metal detector wands and other security screening devices, so there won't be a steep learning curve in them manufacturing our security screening. Finally, how do we make money? We follow the industry norm. It's business-to-business sales on a 2-year sales cycle. Hardware sales, the actual row itself, will be our bread and butter. We'll get recurring revenue through a license subscription, giving our customer the latest algorithm permutations and the latest updates in the database. And additional revenue will be generated from maintenance, service, and training. I'm now going to pass it to Jen Costa, who's going to talk a little bit more about milestones, air cargo, and risk mitigations. Pardon.
Thanks, Tom. So you've heard us say repeatedly that there are no technologies on the market able to screen liquids in a sealed container. So what's being used today? Well, swabbing, for instance, which is very time-consuming, manually intensive, and simply too time-consuming to deploy to screen all cargo. So it's really only screening a small section of cargo. And then, of course, canines. Canines cost $250,000 for a 6-year working life cycle. And although that's a very lucky dog, it doesn't do much for our customers. And then, of course, X-ray machines. All air cargo must be screened by X-ray. However, liquid cannot be detected by X-ray. It just comes up as an orange blur on the screen. And although X-ray is helpful in looking for detonators within 55-gallon drums, which is the way in which liquid air cargo is typically shipped, it is very easy to get a small plastic detonator into a bung of a 55-gallon drum. And so liquid air cargo is still at very high risk. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the cargo screening system, how it works, what a cargo facility looks like, and the way that Row fits seamlessly into the facility in order to not impede commerce. So cargo comes into the screening facility, it's depalletized, and it then goes through X-ray machines. If the cargo cannot be adequately screened by an X-ray machine, it then goes into a specialty screening area. That's where you find the dogs, the manual labor, the swabbing equipment, and that's where Row fits in. Row takes only 9 seconds to use, well under the TSA mandate of 19 seconds. And so it does not impede commerce. And this is something that's very important to us because we want our customers to be able to meet the mandate without having to go through a time-consuming process. Cargo that's screened is then repalletized. One of the questions that we often get is it true that all of this cargo is actually depalletized and screened on a piece level? It is. It's what these customers must do in order to meet the mandate. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how we get Row onto this cargo screening facility floor. First, we license Row in June of this year. We then spend the remainder of the year raising funds to create that database and prototype, which can be done by working with PNNL and Stratos, and that can be done simultaneously. We then submit the commercial-ready prototype to DHS for vetting so that we can get onto what's called a qualified products list. Our customers can only buy technology on a qualified products list, and there are no technologies on that list able to screen liquids in a sealed container. We'll then see our sales in the fourth quarter of 2013. So what are the risks moving forward? Well, first, our competitors. Right now, our competitors are dogs and swabbing equipment. We can work 5 times faster. We lower their annual savings, we lower their costs annually by 42%, and we minimize their liability by being extremely efficient and the best product on the qualified products list. The other risk, licensing that agreement. We haven't done it yet. We'll be signing the agreement in June of this year. We've come to terms on the agreement, and at this point, we're just raising founders' capital to pay the initial licensing fee. And then, of course, the management team. Tom talked about that a few moments ago. We're well aware of our gaps moving forward, and we'll be relying heavily on our advisory board. As you can see, we've pulled advisors from a variety of different sectors within this industry, including government, security industry, the air cargo industry, and technology. I'll now hand things over to Blake to talk a little bit about our funding strategy.
Thank you, Jen.
We're going to utilize 3 funding sources. First is Founders Capital, equity investments, and federal grants. Currently, we are raising $200,000 of Founders Capital, and that's going directly towards acquiring the license for Row and going for acquiring our first round of angel investment. Also, concurrently, we are applying for multiple federal grants, of which we anticipate a $500,000 award in January 2012. And this is congruent with our first round of equity investment. Now, this $1.5 million is going to be tranched into 3 $500,000 streams, and that is to reduce risk to you, the investor. In third quarter of 2012, we're going to look for an additional $2.5 million, and that is to finish developing the commercial-ready prototype to submit to DHS vetting. Also, about $1 million is allocated for operations to push Row through the certification process. Once we experience our first sales, as Tom says, Row is a cost-effective solution. We're selling Row for $38,000, and that's a 54% margin. Also, our reoccurring revenues allow us to reach profitability quicker, and we anticipate break-even at 225 units and cash flow positive and profitable in year 2015. This is a revenue growth chart of both Sonus LLC in the red and ICX in the blue. ICX is one of our industry comparables. ICX developed trace technology for explosives that you see in the airport. Those rolled out in 2004, and you see the explosive growth between 2004 and 2006. That is indicative of this environment. Once a technology is placed on the qualified products list, adoption is widespread. We have just simply chosen to model a more conservative revenue growth to protect you, the investor. So what are we offering the investors? 49% equity share in Sonus. This $4 million investment will return annualized 44% to round 1 and 34% to round 2. This is based on a $140 million valuation using the multiples below. So how do we get to that? Our exit strategy is through strategic acquisition. This industry the big players rely on strategic R&D feeder companies such as Sonus LLC to broaden their sensor portfolios. We saw this with Envision and ICX, and this is where we derive our revenue, or we derive our valuation model and multiples to get Sonus at $140 million in 2020. Making Sonus a sound investment, both reducing the costs for our customers and meeting a government mandate. So with that, we'll open it to questions.
Can you explain the relationship with the Battelle Memorial Institute?
Sure. PNNL is a subsidiary of Battelle, so we've been working closely with them, and they, of course, own the intellectual property rights, and that's where the inventor is employed. So that's the entity from which we will be licensing our technology.
Okay. And your licensing agreement in your presentation, you said was going to be 10 years?
Right, the IP, yes.
Okay. And then you're looking at maybe an exit in 2020? Okay.
Yes.
So what is a buyer going to be buying at that point? Are they going to be buying 2 years of a licensing agreement?
They'll be buying the entire company, and so at that point, they will have the product on the qualified products list. And so even once the IP runs out, we have the only technology on that qualified products list. And so even if another technology is created, it has to be vetted by DHS and get on that list, and which is a timely process. As you see, we allocated a year for it.
But doesn't the new buyer then have to renegotiate a licensing agreement to have access to that product?
No, we would be licensed. We would work with PNNL. They know of our exit strategy, and they're approving of our business plan, and so that would be part of our licensing agreement, our ability to turn the license over to the buyer.
And so PNNL will own the database?
No, we would own the database.
Okay.
So what happens when a piece of cargo that your technology is screened turns out to be a threat and blows up on a plane?
Well, DHS, after 9/11, absolved, in order to not staunch innovation, they absolved the creators of these technologies from any liability.
And the providers?
Are you talking about Sonus?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a mandate to have this in place by 2012. So people are going to buy something starting in 2012, and you're not going to join the marketplace till 2014. So you're going to ask them to replace a product that they purchased 2 years prior? Am I understanding that right?
Well, there's no product for them to purchase. So one of the really interesting things about this mandate is that it won't be reached. They're nowhere near 100%. They're at 30%. And so the mandate's up for review, and it's been approved in the past, and it'll be approved again. And so at this point, we're just continuing. the U.S. government is just continuing to try to meet 100% screening, and they're doing that by funding through grants, a lot of innovation, trying to get the certified cargo screening facilities up and running under 30 days, and they're trying to vet technologies as quickly as possible. And our technology is the only one able to screen liquids in a sealed container. And we've been looking at other labs to make sure that other labs aren't creating similar technologies that might beat us to the punch, so to speak, and there just aren't.
Okay.
So terrorists are ingenious types. How do you get around this type of a problem where you've got two mediums inside a drum, and the top one, it's smaller, it's 10 gallons inside a 55-gallon drum, and you put your detectors through this medium, and this one is never disclosed?
In talking to Steve Serco at the Department of Homeland Security, he was very, very careful to say that there is no silver bullet. There never will be a silver bullet, which is why DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and TSA use a layered security approach. So basically, after this ran through the X-ray, they would say, hey, the X-ray can't screen it. It goes to the special screening area. We put Row on it. It sends the acoustic pulse through it. It's going to spoof it. It's basically going to say this is not pure liquid. It does not match the bill of lading, at which point it's done its job. It has basically stopped the threat liquid from getting onto the aircraft, and then additional security measures.
But it says that this liquid's fine. Like, that's milk and that's gasoline.
The X-ray machine would absolutely pick that up. They can see any contraband that's
So-
inside the liquid.
So you have two containers, and that's what we were talking about on detonators. It would see the metal.
Oh, sorry, no, finish, please.
Do you see what I mean? I mean, that's the contraband sitting inside the 55-gallon drum. And the detectors go on here, and acoustically it says it's fine. It's a legitimate liquid. But really it isn't. We've got a bomb in the
Bomb in the bottom.
bomb in the bottom, yeah.
So because Row also measures the container size, you'd get an error message, because what it's doing is it's sending an acoustic pulse, and you then are measuring the time of flight. And so you would see that there's something inside there, and it's hitting it within like 2 inches in, which is not right for a 55-gallon drum. Oh, below, okay.
If we go back to our air cargo processes slide,
Yeah.
you'll see that it's run through an X-ray version looking for
Okay,
detonators.
okay, that's a good answer, yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
All right, so what percentage of the cargo is in 55-gallon drums that you can take your 9 seconds to screen, and what percentage is a case pack of Melantha? And, do you have to unpack every bottle in that case? Can you do a case pack scan?
We're not clear with this.
So how much of the cargo then is in drums?
The majority of liquid cargo is in 55-gallon drums. The only smaller containers that would be shipped via air cargo are things for immediate delivery, such as specialty lubricants and chemicals that need to get there the day after, or also emergency foodstuffs going to places like Haiti and currently in Japan and tsunami efforts.
So anything that's not like in a 5-gallon pail or a 55-gallon drum has to be unpacked and individually screened? So this is not going to slow down commerce, huh?
Well, they're doing it anyway right now. We do it. And I hate to be cliche in saying this, but better, quicker, faster, cheap.
Can we go back to your funding milestones slide, though? I just want to make sure I understand that you are going to be raising $1.5 million in Q1 2012, milestoning it, so it'll be in 3 different tranches. And then you're going to be raising an additional $2.5 million 6 months later.
Correct.
Why don't you raise it all at once?
Basically, to reduce risk, we want to get that database developed already and begin work on the commercial-ready prototype.
I think you're going to find that raising money is a very time-intensive, labor-intensive process, and to raise money twice in 1 year is kind of a stretch in the first place.
Do you see your customers possibly buying 2 units because of potential false readings that may come up from time to time, and having a backup source?
It really depends on the size of the air cargo facility. We visited Aerocheck in Portland, and they have a relatively small facility about the size of a gymnasium, and their needs would only be about one device. However, if it were a larger facility, say a FedEx, they're shipping hundreds of thousands of packages per day. They might have a need for more than one. But as the device itself is going to be extremely durable, and we also do provide maintenance as well.
So I spaced out a little bit on the royalties and the license. The royalty is 8% through the whole license agreement, correct? And is that contract signed? Where are we in the negotiation with the
We're in the
provider?
negotiation phase. So at this point, what we're talking about is 8% royalty and then $20,000 signing fee. And so we're in the process of raising that capital, founders capital, and we're intending to sign in June. And we were just up there last Friday. We've worked with them for a year. They've reviewed our business plan, and they're ready to sign.
So what's in the way of getting the signature?
$20,000.
So the 8% is guaranteed? It won't be any higher than 8%, that's guaranteed?
Verbally, yes. They have never indicated more than 8%. That's their standard. They often license technologies, and that's sort of their standard. But of course, it isn't in writing, and so there is always that risk. However, I would be surprised if it went high, but it could. There's always that risk.
Part of PNNL's mission is to foster innovation and entrepreneurship in small businesses. So I just don't think it would align with their history or with their mission to try to put the screws to.
Who is it that puts the 2012 deadline on 100% screening? What government organization is mandating that?
Department of Homeland Security.
How realistic is that when you guys aren't going to be really selling anything until 2014, and you got one competitor that you've identified that's MagViz or somebody?
MagViz is going to be very specialized, and it will do liquids. I don't want to. I don't want to confuse on that. But it uses low-frequency MRIs, and considering it's going to be for carry-on liquids. Considering the majority of them are shipped in metal drums, I can't imagine they can't put a metal drum in an MRI machine.
Okay, so 2012 rolls around. There's a mandate that 100% has to be screened, but there's no screening being done. What happens? Like, aren't there other things in the pipeline?
That's what we were.
And how does the swabbing work again?
Well, the swabbing and the dog work in conjunction, right? So when a dog goes up and sniffs a barrel, it just barks. You don't know what it is. And so you have to take a manual swab to characterize that liquid. And so...
So you open up the container?
You have to open up the container.
Okay.
It's throws, it's a sealed container. You never have to open anything up. It doesn't expose the operator to any risk.
Okay.
I can't believe that this is being mandated by the Department of Homeland Security, that there isn't grant money available to you guys.
There is.
It's like, I don't know why you have to raise equity outside.
Agreed.
You know, and no one else is building the same sort of thing you are building. Isn't there other grants available?
One thing that we looked at, the federal grants that we're applying for have no ceilings. So, I mean, theoretically, I guess we could acquire $4.5 million through federal grants. So we kind of came up, we did an analysis of similar size screening companies applying for federal grants, especially DARPA grants, and figuring out what's kind of our most likely case. And based on the size of our company and what we're looking for, the technology, we came up with $500,000 as our most likely and probable outcome.
In looking at the larger grants that were awarded in the $5 million to $10 million range, most of them went to companies like Northrop Grumman, L3, General Electric.
If nobody else is creating a solution to looking at liquids and containers, $4 million is peanuts to the U.S. government.
I'm hearing 5 more grant money.
Well, and particularly if they want to fulfill the 2012 mandate. So, I mean, it's easy, right? You want to hit 2012, we'll invest in this at 4.5 and get the product out there.
That would make perfect sense, but it seems that they play some favoritism towards the bigger companies for those grant awards.
So is there any, the reason they're favoring larger corporations is probably concerns about the technology and the risk of the technology not working and things like that. So is that what's the barrier to
I wouldn't say it's that. I would say it's political contributions of the big companies. The lobbying efforts that are out there.
In addition, the 2012 mandate keeps coming up. The Department of Homeland Security has already extended this deadline twice. It started 2009, then moved later. So we're wholeheartedly expecting it to be put off even longer. We've looked at some statements by the TSA stating that they do plan on extending that timeline out.
But see, that's not good for you guys. That just means more competition. You should be using it to your strategic advantage. You have the only technology that can screen liquids. And you have a mandate in front of you that you could actually leverage. Extending it just means that you're increasing the number of other people that are going to get funded and the number of competitors that are going to be out there.
Well, so we're aware of that, and we've been looking at technologies being developed, and that's where MagViz comes in, and they're looking at about 5 years of development, and then of course it's a low-field MRI technology. So we are aware of that. However, we need, 2014 is about as quick as we can go to get that database created. So there's just a little bit more research and development that needs to be done. But we definitely want to be, and know that we need to be, the first to market. So we're really researching the environment, making sure there aren't competitors that are going to beat us to the chase, pushing PNNL to be able to create the threat liquid list as quickly as possible, that database. And there is a chance that perhaps that could be done quicker. But right now, we're thinking because some of the threat liquids need to be characterized at a military base, that's going to be a time-intensive, a lot of paperwork to get access to these threat liquids, that we need to account for that, and there's sort of no way around that, unfortunately.
In speaking with L3 and Smiths on why aren't they doing this, what they're doing is very much focusing on their existing, on enhancing the capabilities of their existing technologies. L3's bread and butter is computer tomography. So right now they're working on refining an algorithm that can tell between the difference between organics and inorganics, and that's about 18 months away. Smiths is very much focused on the ion spectroscopy and the trace, the things used for the swabs and the trace and the puffers, and that's what they're focusing on. So in our conversations, that seems to be where their efforts are focused on over the next 2 years.
Can I ask you about the comparables that you used? You used ICX and Envision, and you decided that 2 times revenue multiple was appropriate.
That actually might be different.
Okay.
It's 1.5. Those are the current multiples.
And you chose that 1.5 multiple looking at these 2 comparables?
Correct.
Okay. So ICX, are they in a similar type of business? Do they own their IP? Do they manufacture as well? Or are they licensing technology as you are and basically selling it?
I believe Tom can actually talk to ICX's capabilities a little better than me.
ICX, they don't license it. They do generate their own technologies. They started out about 15 years ago. They started out about 15 years ago, and they do develop. They started out as a lab that developed their own technology. They don't license it. That said, their product that they're putting out is very specialized, and that was the logic behind choosing it, where you would have an L3 or a Smiths doing a wider range of things on a larger scale. ICX was comparably sized, and it was a startup, one of those rare startups that was able to, well, not rare, but ultimately bought out.
What's the sales model? How do you sell this stuff?
Let me get to the slide real quick. Basically, it's on a 2-year sales cycle for the larger machines like X-rays and computer tomography that do cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's 5 to 7 for wands and the puffers and trace. You'll see it about 2 to 5. So we're modeling this on the hardware every 2 years. Then the industry norm is after the hardware is sold, updates to the algorithms and packages are sold annually, and that's how the recurring revenue comes into play. And then they also do the maintenance on it at a markup. They do training and service, and that's how you make money.
Can you do transactional for every hit on the database?
Our model right now is an annual fee. That's what we've explored, and that's what we've seen. You could do transactional, I suppose, but that hasn't been what we've observed thus far.
Okay. I've exhausted myself.
Everybody okay?
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.